Big moment here, Jacob.
Yeah, big moment because it's no more time to kind of shake off those nerves. You got to get ready for your drop spot. You see a north to south, a little bit leaning towards the east, slowly going towards the west as we end up at the end of that bus path. So we're going to see an early contested, brutal bastion, 3-team contested drop on that side of the map. You know, Pars and Baka, they got in the north, kind of uncontested, but we're going to jump on board for Cease and Nevs, the team that was talking about two different regions, combining their forces here. Cease, one of the OGs, but Nevs is just getting tagged up right out of the gates.
Yeah, and this is a duo that I really am interested to see how they play and how things work out for them. Of course, this isn't a team that has played together before this competition. And so, you know, big commitment, right, for Nebs to fly all the way over to play with Sisu. He obviously hasn't got experience with across the map, though. We have Abluingo and Bevis. They get started incredibly well here against Except and Dubs. Cheeky win off spawn is going to do wonders for the confidence moving forward.
Yeah, those shield bubbles just played such a huge role here in zero builds to where you can't build, you just pop the shield bubble down, you buy yourself a couple of seconds to work with, and Jace needs a couple of those seconds. He gets tagged up out of the sky and finds one of those vehicles sitting into the garage and quickly tries to make his way out. I see him looking like almost one of those solo arrows there on the mini-map, so he might have lost his teammate very early on. He's trying to make something out of nothing here in game number 1.
Yeah, but I expect to see a lot more of those kind of gambits, right? Where we just see players do everything to try get a vehicle, right? It wasn't a massive factor in some of the heat lobbies we watched, but in a finals lobby, if you can get a vehicle, you definitely will profit from that. And I think we've seen that in many of the different iterations of zero build metas. Fight here at Naughty doesn't quite close out yet. Both teams down on shields just a bit, so we'll have to take some time to heal up and reposition.
3 shield barrels could be enough, but if you look at OPT, it doesn't have any more small ammo for his twin mag SMG, so it's all down to spraying and praying with his red eye assault rifle. They did find a med miss down below, though, if they did choose to pick it up, but you can see them, they're not necessarily using it right away because they don't want to give away that audio cue that they're weak, that they're forced to heal. Meanwhile, Turtle and Justice, before they kind of ended up in the attic of this building, you saw them get 3 shield barrels there that they kind of were easily able to pop, get at least 30 HP and shields back, but Turtle gets advanced on rather quickly. Fluker's going to have to lead the charge. He does have that Havoc Pump shotgun. He's putting it to use right out of the gate. Shield's getting drained down. Turtle's going to have to think about something here because both of them don't really have the loadout to kind of fight back from this. Turtle's going to go down. Justice left by himself. He doesn't have anything to throw any punches. That's Fluker and OPT qualifying late in their heat, making noise here early on in the finals.
And I like the way they turned the tables there, right? You saw they were the ones down beneath in the building, looking low, looking scuffed, and then they went, you know what, no, let's go up on top, go to the roof, take the fight to them, force them down, and they win things out. Really nice stuff there.
Yeah, and because you get at least one kinetic blade over there on that side of the map that naturally spawns there, kind of a static one. They're at least going to have some rotation to work with. Going to cross their fingers for a second one in the floor loot. See Knifer and Mega just kind of spot players out into the distance. And honestly, I kind of ask you a question here. We've seen it such a few times, but not really play a big role in towards the heat. Does hiring the NPCs have any bit of importance here? But I'm going to pause that for a second. Static's getting snuck up on. Trey's going to have to abandon him here in this situation. Kinetic Blaze being put to use. Statics is going to go down, so Trey's going to be left by himself.
Yeah, Maz is on a hunt right now. And he is ready to feast. Fully following, I wouldn't say closely behind, but somewhat behind, as close as you can be right now. And that is one of the benefits, right, of having them kinetic blades, right? You can just sort of zoom into people and chase after potential limbs. They maybe crack some shields here. They might consider chasing after that as well. Bamboo, though, making it ever so hard to actually get any decent vision.
Bubbles once again. It's almost a must-have here in zero build, especially the later the game goes. Being able to stack those up, and that's the thing that a lot of players look for in our regular mode. When you think about a refresh, when you think about a siphon, you're thinking about the mats, you're thinking about the ammo, you're thinking about the HP that you gain. Here in zero build, it's finding the heals that they have left over, whether it's chug splashes, a legendary slurp juice, med mist, anything. But then more importantly is those shield bubbles, trying to get those recycled around. The longer you carry those into the game, the longer you're likely to last.
Yeah, shield bubbles have been the meta, right? You know, you speak to any pros playing in this lobby, they'll tell you they desperately want them. I know for sure these guys do as well. Malabuka and Pink both winners at the last Gamers 8 respectfully in the different modes. Unfortunately for Malibuka, the mode he won in is no longer going to be an actual competition to partake in, but Pink, the reigning champion of Zero Build at Gamers 8, not playing with Anas in this competition, his duo that he won with, but playing with Malibuka. And this is a very, very scary duo, Jacob.
No, it's definitely one of the duos that we're kind of looking out for. I know, kind of watching Boop stream beforehand, he kind of put them into the top of his leaderboards, one of the teams to kind of watch out for. Just like you, though, kind of going for his EU boys there. But honestly, it's getting harder and harder as each season kind of passes. We see these international events, even though we do have contenders from these other regions, majority of those competitors that are fighting tooth and nail every single game are from the EU, including Hellfire and Refsguard. Everybody's really kind of expecting big things. Nip, Ninjas in Pajamas, picking up Refsguard, expecting big things from him in Fortnite in general. Gotta give him a huge congratulations. Well deserved from Refsguard as well.
Yeah, Refsguard's been about in the community for ages. Been grinding, hustling. Up here above Mega City, they will have plenty of vision of all that's going on around. And of course, you mentioned how impressive Hellfire has been. It was very impressive at the last Gamers 8. But to be fair to him, he did have some shaky moments there as well, right? So I'm sure he'll want to try and get back there and prove himself. And that starts here with hunting down Epic Well, who isn't looking too hot, looking too good. And after taking a while to actually qualify through to this stage with Reet, confidence can't be too high. So he is able to get out, it seems, just for a moment. I think they've struggled to track him there. All the movement about Mega City, right, just sort of benefiting him there.
I'm just looking all around there on the mini map, bottom right, seeing where's Reet. I don't see that beige arrow anywhere on the mini map, which kind of almost leads me to believe that Reet was kind of taken down very, very early on, left Epic Well by himself. So for him to maneuver around and stay alive without any shields is going to be not only important, but so impactful in their game, depending on where they end up after this first game of the day. A team is going to be on the left side of Mega City as well. Another team just outside on the western edge on a mountaintop. Another team putting down the damage. That's Malibuka and Pink quickly getting the down onto Refsguard. And you can see in the minimap, they're closing the distance. Down goes Refsguard. Now Hellfire's left as a solo.
Pink.
Wow.
What was that? Them shots were nasty. And like you said, they just got right in. They did not give him a chance to breathe. He popped the shield bubble, but it didn't matter. They knew exactly what they wanted, and they got it. And right back over to Pink Hill as well, after they pick up some loot. And the good thing about this area as well is that there are a decent amount of bushes, right, in this area. So they can just sit here. That mountain as well is so, so crucial. It's probably the best mountain in the game. And so that positioning they have is so strong. And as long as the zone pulls in this direction across these 6 games, they will be a very, very important team to how the lobby plays out. Cease and Nebs all the way over in Brutal Bastion, still with a team in this area that's going to be taking shots at them. Cease having to dodge and weave. You got to wiggle a bit more, my friend. Barely getting away with his life.
Luckily for them, though, they did seem to have some of that loot from the vault over towards Brutal Bastion, legendary slurp juices, and then you got to imagine they know how to scavenge around in the POI that they land at to kind of recoup some of their losses there in the situation. Quinn and Vert just trying to play to kind of bypass everybody else, let everybody move forward into the zone, and that's one of the biggest things that you see different here in Zero Builds versus our regular mode as well. Everybody in the traditional BR just fights to get to the center of each and every one of these zones as they kind of close out. Here in Zero Builds, you see a lot of players playing towards the outskirts, playing towards the edge of the zone, and trying to gatekeep players out and try to keep anybody that they see in the middle and try to focus them. Pilkey's going to go down, though. Easiness kind of low on HP himself. If he doesn't have anything to try to pop here, it does look like he had at least something. He was going to go down as well. Maybe a legendary slurp juice, but Cease and Nevs know he's nearby. And this is the thing, as these zone changes, the lower damage that you do take later on in this, what you would seemingly later on in the zone, they can kind of lie here and just kind of gatekeep Easiness and Pilkey.
Yeah, and of course, Pilkey was actually one of the players who qualified last year for Gamers 8, so I'm sure he'll want to try to do that again. The overall Zero Build player pool and meta has improved a lot since then. Oh dear. What's happened here for Mappy with an iron? It looks like Mappy's going to have to fend off for himself. I don't know if he's going to be able to get him up. He will try. Just call him behind this tree. We'll give them a bit of time for the revive.
All right.
Oh.
Thinking the same thing. If he would have put that shield bubble down sooner, I think they would have still had the same chance to kind of close the distance with the kinetic blades, but at least would have made it a little bit more risky. It laid Prospering and Merrick kind of second guess that decision, but Prospering, another one of the fan favorites that we've seen out here, kind of specializing in zero builds. Him and Merrick taking a few heats to try to qualify, and Mappy just using that large boulder, just trying to hide around. You got to imagine if he didn't have the reboot card, probably waiting around to grab it later on. And I think the reboots are a little bit easier here in zero builds than some of the traditional modes that we've seen so far. We've seen a lot of players being brought back from the depths before, but Trippin and Scram, they're going to get taken out here in game number 1 by Trashy and Pump. One of the favorites here to not only get a spot in Gamers 8 after today's finals are done, but get a lion's share of that prize pool as well.
Yeah, and understandably, man. Pump and Trashy are insane. They are really, really good. And I believe they actually won the Cash Cup, right, in NA, the most recent one that we had. So,
from San Diego.
On form, right? So, that definitely bodes well for their chances in this competition.
Camstone, Fatch. A couple more struggles than I've expected throughout the heats. Kind of waiting till heat number 4, qualifying in 11th place in their top 5 games out of 8. They had 37 eliminations, and honestly, just like the SETI and Camby over on EU, I think their passive style of game plan might help them a little bit here in zero builds, at least until we get into those later zones, as Suns and Alex end up here in a 2v2 against Notch and Source. International battle here, OCE versus NA West. Notch and Source are going to quickly try to disengage themselves on out, try to live to fight another day, but they just put themselves deeper into the zone where they're going to have to kind of bypass Alex and Suns either way, so the inevitable is going to come to fruition once they get there. They have a chug cannon, so they're going to have more than enough time to kind of think about what their strategy is going to be.
Yeah, but at a certain point you do always wonder, when will you get to zone? The one thing I'd say, right, is an adjustment, especially for me, in comparison to zero build and regular battle royale mode, is this season, right, with the way the meta is, if I see people in the zone this long, I'm like, yeah, your game's over. Like, don't even bother. The game is over. You ain't making heal off. But of course, not as much of a worry here in zero build. So
yeah, that's kind of one of the saving graces where I agree with you. Oh, he took one tick of zone. He's not winning that healed off. as soon as he starts off here, this time there's a little bit more comfortability, a little bit more flexibility overall as Paper and Jamper moving to be so in the middle of the waters, just trying to wait for their kinetic blade charges to recharge with that shield bubble. It's kind of that sacrifice, one shield bubble down just so they can find a little bit more safety at the edge of, I think, that shattered slabs where another vault is if there's anything left to scavenge. And you can see a different bit of loadout here coming out instead of the Havoc or the Maven. Paper trying to utilize that combat shotgun. What do you think the order goes in zero builds for at least 11 2Ks shotgun variations?
for me, it's I'm a combat man myself. But the thing is, I always tell people this. I like the shotguns that allow you to shoot multiple times, just because I have terrible like aim. Like my first shot accuracy is awful. So for me, I'm going, you know, the combat Maven, pump. Actually, no, I'm probably go pump over Maven. But yeah, I like the shotguns that allow you to shoot a couple times, right?
Yeah. I feel like I agree with you. I feel like when I carry the Havoc in zero builds, I need the SMG, either one, whether if it's the twin mag SMG or the exotic variants that you can find in hollow chests, or the augments that you actually do get in zero builds. Is Mega Knifer trying to sneak up the side of a mountain. They get caught, gate kept out. It's going to be a huge battle going down against some of our NA Titans. N-Pen on the other side, taking too much damage, but bobbing and weaving in and outside of those shield bubbles. And those are the exciting fights that I do like to see. It's something that's out of the ordinary, playing the bubble absolutely perfect. D-Roller and N-Pen on top.
Yeah, that was really nice. Showing what the shotguns can do, right? When you have actual good aim. D-Roller and N-Pen. Some really big shots here there as well, and you saw, like you said, just dancing between those shield bubbles, being able to get that timing right isn't easy. Definitely did well there to win that fight. But again, still way deep in the zone. And along their way, they will have plenty of opportunities to scout and pick up some loot. As you can see here, just here at the flag, seeing what's there for them. Eyes now again onto Marok. Fluga here as well in one of these buildings. And then Vortex and Volks repping OCE in another as well. Those are good positions to be in, right? When you can find yourself some buildings that are on a lot of, you can't provide yourself with cover outside of them, right? So good spots to be in.
I'm just thinking back to my nightmares of different events, playing zero builds, and somebody's hiding in the rooftop of a building. As soon as I enter in, I see a bandage, I see a med kit. I think, ooh, shiny, and then I just got tagged out just like Cease there, sniped out of the sky, but quick reactions coming through from Nebs. Shield bubble down, but it looks like Blur and Thor are going to close the gap. Jamper and Paper get closed out as well. That's Pamstu and Fatch at the edge of zone. They're going to be able to get their res, unlike their counterparts on the other side. You see in the feed, Thoric and Blur are going to be able to clean up Cease and Nebs. It's actually Kanata entering into that fray as well. Pamso and Fatch are going to go down. Degen, it's his lucky, are going to clean that up. So many teams playing Janitor because of that 5 points per elimination.
Yeah, you're not going to let a team off, right? If you pick up a knock, you just have to go in for it. I feel like a lot of these teams will be thinking a fight here between Revise and...
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
It's that Mythic Havoc, bro. He just one pump Malabuka essentially, made it look absolutely easy. But honestly, I forget a team like Reciprocal and Revise exist. We've seen them in the last FNCS Major 1 take high ground after high ground every single time and eventually win a game, taking down Miro as Mappy goes down along with Fanaya and Agers and Kanata. Actually ramping it up here in finals. Honestly, this is one of the teams I expected big things from coming out from the Heats. They waited till, I wouldn't say the last possible moment, but later than we would probably hope. And they're honestly not only fighting for those 10 elimination points that they just got, but the weapon cache as well to kind of bolster their loadout.
Yeah, they're going to be going into the end of this game looking stacked.
Whoa.
Oh, this isn't good whatsoever. Cammy is struggling, and Cammy is a matter of moments away, you'd think, from being taken out. Mythical Slurp will help him get some HP back up. But he is not looking good. Seti's nowhere to be found. He's been picked up, taken out. And right now, just going to have to heal in the storm.
Somebody getting like a jelly base ready out here?
Hey, look.
And zero builds?
They can't help themselves, man. They're just too locked into the fishing meta. Too locked in.
Uh-oh. There goes the warning. He can't stay in the zone that much longer. He's going to be taking so much damage. Thoric and Blur, you saw them take down a team just moments ago, but only getting one of the two players, so only 5 points being added their total. See them spreading around the slurp juices, just making sure that Thoric can kind of get his shield on up. He knows being in the kind of the center here of Shadow Slabs, or at least lacking that elevation, it's not the safest place you want to be, especially since they know they're going to rotate from point A to point B. And instead of just grabbing the building, they're just finding a little crevice towards the low ground to where they can hopefully go unnoticed.
Yeah, the problem is, right, is if they don't go unnoticed, then they're in an awful position, right, to defend themselves. The C and Revised dropping down. Can they start hitting big shots again? It's not going to look like it this time. That mythical shotgun will not be their savior. The fight breaks out. It continues. Frets and Bonte will go down. After coming off the high of just winning the fight they were in, instantly sweeped up. And that's another third-party situation we're seeing there, Jacob.
Yeah, from 1v1 elimination races to the finals of DreamHack, Kika just kind of putting on a show, being led by Jivy as well, saving the day, getting them back in. Those are important eliminations that they were able to clean up, but down goes Blur. Thoric's going to be left by himself, and what you said essentially came to fruition. They did get noticed out. They were able to gather 2 more eliminations, but Blur going down, that could be the end of them. Is it worth saving? And I do see some damage being dished out by Prospering, just trying to make sure one less player that he does have to worry about, because he too is a solo left in a lobby full of Tigers.
Yeah, we saw Marek go down earlier on, right? So Prospering's going to have to do this one all by himself. But the problem is the position he finds himself in is just so tough. It's stuck in between so many different teams with Texas and Axe Force. They're positioned here. They're waiting for something. I think they're suspicious of the players walking through that area. And now that they've seen Fork, they feel more inclined to start to make their rotation in. And that's going to be one of the easier limbs they get all day.
Yeah, just kind of catching them out. They had so many heals. They were kind of afforded the idea to kind of stagger themselves, take some damage, see if they can find any eliminations here towards the edge of zone. Pilkey's going to go down, leaving it all up to Easiness, who's not scared to go to the backside of zone, but he doesn't have that same luxury. He lacks the heals, but Fluger and OPT is going to take him out altogether, so he doesn't have to worry about game number 1 anymore. He can set his focus here on game number 2 as the shield bubble's coming down. That's Axe Force and Vortexers going in and out. They're bobbing and weaving, playing it perfectly yet again, leaving Fluger by himself. He's trying to go find some place to hide. The roller's going to go down, and as it shakes down, the zone gets smaller. So much action breaks down right before our eyes.
How many times have we seen that, Jacob, right? OPT there just thought he was cool, thought he was chilling, and bam, Axe Force and Vortexers roll on in. Nobody's safe in this lobby. If you start fighting, be sure somebody will waltz on through and get involved themselves, back home pass, trying to stay low-key, trying to stay passive at this point. And where they sit right now isn't too bad as long as next zone isn't too restrictive in where they have to move to. Maybe we'll look to rotate along the ridge. Source and Natch, though, they sit really pretty and they can see exactly where everybody else is. The problem is they have to move into where these people are, and so making their mind up on where it is they need to go is the most difficult part about the game for them from this point onwards. Use them katanas to find their spot in zone. Trashy and Pump now are struggling because there's a player behind them. It's Jivy. Oh my goodness.
Hiding behind the truck. He had 6 different splashes. That strategy was afforded to him. Now he's going to be rewarded some shield bubbles. You see him using the first. Knows he has extra to spare. But with the shield bubbles going down, his position is going to be given up. You see Axe Force and Vortexers looking on the other side. Source is going to go down in the tree. Notch trying to be a Christmas ornament on the other side. Trying to bust out Prospering's hiding spot. But he does look like he's winning the battle. But no, through the branches. Notch takes him down before going down himself. Final 2 teams. 2v1 situation. Axe Force and Vortexers versus Jivy, who needs to find some sort of trick underneath his sleeve. He doesn't have heals. All he has is shield bubbles, hopes, and dreams.
Do they know he's in this tree is the question. They're looking all around the place. He certainly knows where they are, and I think they know they are looking to chop it out. They're looking to chop him down, cut him out. You've got to think it's only a matter of time until it is chopped. That final slice through the tree will bring Jivy to his demise. And so it's Axe Force and Vortexers who will pick up game 1 here, Jacob.
Yep, I'm not too surprised here how that one ended, especially as you saw them really take advantage of certain moments there towards the end game. The kinetic blade, you saw Jivy take advantage of the truck, and honestly, I was expecting to see a little bit more vehicle play come into 0 builds this time around, but I'm honestly not too surprised as well with the shield bubbles and the kinetic blades, but revised and reciprocal. This is where you see them take down Malibuca, but they instantly fell right after that altercation.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I think the one key to, Vortex and Axe Force being so successful is moments like this one here on our screens, right? Where they were so effective in those third-party situations. Their timing was excellent. Their shotgun shots while dodging and weaving through the shield bubbles was really, really on point. They just got the timing so right. You can see them there. Just the aim was electric. Using those ARs to good use. Jivy don't put on a fight. He came second place, and he made people work for it, right? That pulse rifle is just so oppressive. You can't do anything about it when a player's looking at you with that. But at the end, there wasn't really anything you could do, right? When you're stuck in a tree in a 2v1, you just got to bow down at that point.
Yeah, for Trash and Pump, the next time they see a truck or any sort of vehicle there, I guarantee you they're going to look twice. They're going to double take back and see if anybody's hiding there towards the outside. But before we get to our leaderboards and seeing who's on top after game number 1, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll see you guys on the other side. Welcome back, everybody, to the DreamHack Open featuring Fortnite. This is the finals, $250,000 up for grabs, and those 10 spots to Gamers 8 later this year. I'm Jacob PR, joined with Levin, and we've already seen a fantastic game number 1 where Vortex and Axe Force were able to not only take that top spot, but drop 11 eliminations as well.
Yeah, they were popping off. They were third partying everybody and everybody. It was one of those situations where I think you look at a team and they just rolled into that first game, really just thinking like, look, we're just gonna do our thing, right? We ain't gonna be scared of nobody. We ain't gonna fear anybody, and it paid off. A really big win.
Yeah, you said they were kind of cleaning up eliminations, starting some battles on the other side. And with those 11 eliminations, Victory Royale, they have 115 points, 31 points over the NA West Source and Notch, 84 points, 7 eliminations. Kika and GV following it up in third. Anybody surprising here in the top 8 so far?
Nobody I'd say surprising, but big ups to GV again for that game, right? He came in clutch towards the end. Being able to clutch up his team a second place performance as a solo is really, really nice. On to the next page that you can see here from 9th to 16th, the teams that we got. I think the big thing, right, to always remind people in these kind of competitions is that it's just game 1. And we still have 5 more of these games. So you might see a team up here doing incredibly well, and they will be nowhere to be found by game 6, and vice versa, right? Some of these teams down here you'd expect to start rising up in the standings. I think I saw Pink and Malibuka there, right? You know, in around 24th or something like that. You'd expect that team to start rising.
Yeah, it's not necessarily always how you start. It's how you finish at the end of the day. And kind of circle back to something that you said earlier on in the show and kind of bring it towards what a player like Malibuka and Pink is the nerves of being in person as well. Sometimes you might get complacent. You might get content over having that top placement early on in the tournament, or a player like Malibuka, who's kind of used to being at the top of the leaderboards when the tournament is over with his back up against the wall. I think he's ready to prove more here. We have 5 more games to go here on the day. Who are you expecting to come out big here in game number 2?
Oh, I want to see Queasy and Vino. We didn't really see them last game, did we? Right? So I want to see these guys get involved in the action. And we ain't gonna wait. We got game 2 right here for you. And the battle bus is loaded. The players are jumping all over their gaff. Who will it be off spawn to be successful is the question. We saw some of these off spawn fighters all over the map actually last round. There was a bunch of action, Jacob.
Yeah, right out of the gates. It's kind of what you see in our typical Fortnite Battle Royale, but you see it here in Zero Builds to where if you kind of get caught off guard and you think you're going to be able to get out very quickly, well, you thought wrong. You're going to get taken out very, very quickly if you're out of position. Talk about Queasy and Vino, 37th overall on the leaderboard. They got 39th place in that last game. What kind of helped them most of all here is those 2 eliminations they were able to grab 10 points. So it goes to show that just because you're down on the leaderboard might not mean much, as Guden is able to get the first drop on the Venji. Chicken's going to be able to battle back, bringing it down to a 1v1. Bofing gets dropped right into the palm of Chicken's hands, and he's able to finish that one off very narrowly with 24 HP to spare.
Wow, that was as close as it gets in off-spawn battles. And that's really nicely done, right? That feeling when you win off spawn. I'm sure the comms are electric right now between each other. One of the best parts about being able to play with your teammate in person as well, right, is being able to give them a fist bump, a high five, congratulate them. Casco and Clarity will not be congratulating each other after this game. They have been taken down by our game 1 winners for Texas and Axe Force. Pick up a clean fight here at Breakwater Bay. And, you know, that's something that we didn't see them do much of in the FNCS finals last season. But here at DreamHack, they don't have to fight off against Pixie and Della. So ain't gonna worry about them. Just got to beat Clarity and Casca, which they've been able to do here in game 2.
Bolts, Vortex, 2v2, Duke and Edgy. Both players getting very, very high podium finishes. Duke and Edgy getting first in their heat. Kind of battling it out. Vortex now under siege. Duke just trying to follow up on the damage that he kind of laid out early on. You got to think with no kinetic blade, no escape plan, they're both going to get taken down. But if you look in the feed, it's actually Quanti who steals away those elimination points, who takes down Volks.
Yeah, that's tough. Especially if you're Duke's and Edgy chasing them down. Either way, a good way to start the game, right? At the end of the day, an off-spawn win is an off-spawn win, whether it's you that takes them down or somebody else comes through. And there's still many more spawn fights to happen. Naughty Nets, one of those POIs where those spawn fights can last a bit longer, right? Because there's so much land here, so much for both teams to loot before they actually have to engage and fight each other. You can see both teams seemingly with decent loadouts, but they're jumping right into things, it seems. Luger needs to be careful he doesn't get spoiled. Well, even if he does get spoiled, the shield bubble will help. For the question is, who's going to jump in first?
Yeah, and you see the second shield bubble going out. And this is where you can kind of play the mind games with these shield bubbles. You throw it behind you. You can play with the edge of the shield bubble. Kind of throw it where somebody wouldn't expect. Another one is going to go down. Fluger still fighting from the low ground. Flirting with the idea of taking it towards the edge. 2v2 going down. Fluger lands a huge first shot, followed up by OP yet again. Turtle and Tavern go down. Back-to-back games off of Spawn, and you can see the kinetic blade going on over to Fluger.
That is just beautiful. Beautiful stuff. I am a big fan of teams that just get that timing perfect, right? You saw they jumped up soon as they crossed the shield bubble. The shots already happened. It's almost like they pre-fire it, right? And they connect with massive shots. And that right there will be the team that comes out of Naughty Nets successfully. Cease and Nebs didn't have the best of games in game one. They were able to get out of Brutal Bastion after some long, hard fighting up against Pilkey. But they'll look to do that again. Easiness had to play as a solo for a large part of last game. So I'm sure this time around Pilkey will hopefully be able to stay up with him, as their chances are much better as a duo than as two solos.
Ooh. One side of the map to the other. Anon's going to go down. Degen and Sizzlucky's going to be able to get one. Jay's getting tagged. The separation between Sizzlucky and Degen is going to kind of bring him to two separate 1v1 fights, but nonetheless, the health advantage from Sizzlucky is going to be the difference maker. Takes down Jace. Him and Anon kind of end their run here in game number 2, but Thoric and Blur once again trying to play cleanup. Degen's already down. That's an easy elimination for them. Even though they don't get the points, they're at least going to get something for their efforts if they want it, but it looks like they want the chase. They want the actual points rather than the cleanup and whatever kind of loot he's going to get.
Yeah, and it's no surprise there's so many players in this area, right? We'll try to stab one of those spots that does have a vault. So you'll see a lot of teams postured around it. I was tripping in the distance with Scram, who had their eyes opened. Blowing for it though. We saw what they could do last game, right? They were running around and picking up some limbs here and there. Unfortunately though, this time round, it's going to be Blur that has to do it alone. On such low HP as Thoric, sorry. Take some time to heal up. That medkit will come in clutch.
Yeah, they were kind of chasing him all around. I think it was Tripper and his Scram. He kind of just beamed Thoric out of the sky when he went for that kinetic blade, trying to close the distance. And those are the things you got to really watch out here in zero builds. The Tripper and Scram just trying to take this high position on the mountain before they rotate towards the next zone and try to gatekeep anybody out of Shattered Slabs. Either pick up those elimination points or just try to make their lives as hard as possible. Get them to expend their resources very, very early on, so that way their lives become that much easier as they know they're going to be rotating parallel to them. Just see them hopping up and down, just trying to gather all the information that they can.
Yeah, we've been talking a bunch about the importance of map control, and I think that right there was a perfect example of it. They hold the keys to any of those Shattered Slab players who want to get to zone. Unfortunately, it looks like our game 1 winners were taken out there.
Ooh.
Because Vortex was in this building, he's no longer in this building. And Mega does have an limb, so I'm gonna do 1+1, and hopefully the answer is actually 2. But if that's the case, it's not looking good, right? Vortex and X-Force obviously started off the game well, winning off against Clarity and Casca, but not gonna get the chance to do the back-to-back.
You can see this rotation towards this NPC. If anybody guys out there in zero builds trying to wonder where some of these players that are landing on this north side of the map are getting their kinetic blades. You don't get it from chests. You may be able to find it from floor loot, but the NPC that they just talked to, you can either get a kinetic blade or a chug splash if you just purchase or have enough gold here. And gold is easier to obtain in zero builds than in our regular mode, so you got to kind of think outside of the box, utilize those NPCs and the rotations as you kind of build this one out as we jump on board Acorn and Savage, a team that honestly I was surprised to see them kind of team together. Who's going to be the fragger? Who's going to be that guy that's kind of the tip of the spear? But honestly, as I think about it more and more, zero build modes, you don't necessarily need that fragger. All you need to do is make it off of the spawn, make it off of that initial battle, and then it's all about brains more so than bronze.
Yeah, and I think generally, right, we're seeing the trend in the top level of Fortnite is that you don't have to be so dogmatic, right, in your approach to roles in that way, right? It doesn't have to be so one-dimensional. As long as both players on the team understand what their role is and what they need to do, things can work. In the case of Acorn and Mr. Savage, though, it's still cool to see them to come together. Not a combination I think many people would have expected to see. Same thing for Pink and Malibuka, right? A weird combination, but nonetheless one that can prove to be very successful. Pink just trying to time that shot, but Xset did a good job. Unfortunately, a good job's not going to be enough because Pink and Malibuka dropped down in another game here where Pink is hitting some really nice shots.
What makes that even more so impressive is really threading the needle through the shield bubble with a couple of those shots, not landing any less than 100 damage through each and every time, and utilizing the chug cannon, just dropping his loot just temporarily, just getting those charges off before he kind of picks it right back up and continues on here towards Brutal Bash. So you can see somebody does have the key. The vault has not been opened just yet. It actually might be Cease who possesses the key, and this is where he can make the decision. Without the kinetic blade, though, rotation is going to be hard. He's just trying to gatekeep everything out.
As much as they want the vault, though, they want this limb, and they will find it. Not without taking a big chunk of damage, though. Cease down to just 5 HP. Fortunately for them, though, there is a vault with plenty of loot. There is still a team here at Brutal they have to be wary of, though. But Jacob, look, for this team, right, a lot is riding on this, of course. I want to see Cease upload on his YouTube channel, you know, Cease's thesis about this tournament, so hopefully they do well for that reason alone. But if you're Nebs, right, Nebs' duo is playing here. Nebs' duos with Pink. If I was Nebs, I'd have a massive chip on my shoulder to outplace Pink in this competition, right? Show Pink, look, you should just play with me, bro. Like, what's all the funny business trying to play with Anas and playing with Malibuka? I'm your duo. Play with me. I'm doing good in zero builds. This is his chance to prove that Pink made a mistake not playing with him.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's a huge thing to kind of note on, because as I talk about, this is like the DreamHack Gamers 8 circuit leading into that $2 million event. This is just a proving ground for some of these players, some of these teams going into the next DreamHack Dallas road, the second step to that Gamers 8. You can see some roster mania. You're going to see some players earn some respect after this event. So, hey, maybe that might come to fruition. Maybe Pink might turn around and say, hey, Nebs, I liked your performance and that DreamHack San Diego event. You want to team with me? And guess what? Nebs is going to be like, nah, I have my eyes set on somebody else this time around.
Yeah, that would certainly be pretty funny, right? But the potential is there, man. The potential is there. Who knows, man? Maybe Pink and Malibu could do so well today that they decide, look, we're just going to stick with each other as well. I highly doubt that, though. Thomas and Anas, I'm sure, would probably look at them sideways if that was the case. But I'm sure those two are both watching from home fondly of their two duo partners, or in the case of Pink, former duo partner, playing together and seemingly doing well, at least in the heats they've played. Right? It didn't take them too long after Heat 1. Reeds and Epic, well, a second opportunity at this competition. And unfortunately, one that maybe isn't going to be taken, depending on how this 1v1 between Scram and Reed goes.
That thirst there. Gonna get the chug cannon. There's also a shield bubble if he so chooses, but Scram choosing simply to get the reboot, the chug cannon, and get right on out. You see him in the minimap, close the distance, but he might have just ended up in between two other duos, making himself even more of a sandwich than he was just moments ago. Forced to hide at the bottom. Luckily for him, it's Revised and Typical. I wonder if they're just camping the vault, or if they're... Yeah, they got to be camping the vault. They're not looting ground. This is going to be interesting if anybody takes the bait. This is what I like about zero build as well, because you can't build to protect yourself.
What, the campers?
Yeah. Well, not so much the camp, because it's cheesy. I like cheesiness. Only on pizza though, because I don't really like cheese that much.
Okay. Okay, bro.
They're cheesing. They're cheesing right now, ear to ear. Wait for somebody to take the bait.
Look, if anybody does take it, I hope we get to watch it. And I hope we get have a live cam of them as well at their desk, just breaking everything in their setup in frustration.
Somebody's gonna send out a message. Anybody have a keyboard I can use for the rest of finals?
Would not surprise me.
Pablo, one of the teams, honestly, throughout all of their heats, more particularly the last one that they used to qualify up until this point, they're one of the teams consistently going for this Rift Island, consistently going for those mythic overclock pulse rifles. This time they have a little congestion, quantity and threats. The big question though is, did they spot them out? Is anybody being brave enough to try to go for it just by playing how scared they're playing, or not necessarily scared, how careful they're playing here? I do think they know each other's there.
Yeah, there clearly is some sort of knowledge there.
They have some sort of information that they're kind of using to lead themselves. But from Brutal Bastion all the way to Slappy Shorts, quick rotations from Nebs and Cease. They did finally go back and get that vault loot before they got themselves a position on the top of the Slap Factory. So many teams all around, including Rotten Tweakers and Jax right below in the bush. Oof.
Yeah, no matter which way this swings around, this is just not really an ideal place to be in, right? All this congestion just makes it impossible as a player to make the right move. So many different ways to get punished, even when you start making your way into the zone. The Cease and Nebs, the plan might be to just take everybody out. Then you ain't gotta worry about nobody, right? It's like the old classic, you eliminate everybody in your area, then you create your own dead side. But if that's not possible, then they will have to find the right timing to just sneak through. The good thing is, Rotten Twinkies and Jack is sort of moved in a direction that sort of leaves them a pathway. And there's a truck here as well that they can take, so not too shabby at all.
I like this. You kind of as I say that, they just immediately get destroyed. Well, I don't like it that much anymore. That's Duke.
I liked it in the past.
In the moment, because I was even going to point out in the mini-map moments ago, there was like 2 other trucks on the bridge. Something you don't typically see in the early game. You see it more towards the late portions of the game, but Edgy and Duke said, nah, none of that. None of that on my island. Quickly heavy snipes and just takes down the HP, forcing them to kind of return to the Slap Factory. And that not necessarily a bad choice for Cease and Nebs. If there's any barrels laying around, they can kind of recycle a lot of the heals. Duke just takes too much damage very, very early on. Edgy with a shot and quickly kicks him right out of the bubble, but returns back to the scene. Edgy goes down. Duke had no choice but down to that fight due to so much damage he took early on. Cease and Nebs, they get rewarded for all that effort.
Give that man a map. Where are you going, Edgy? Why did he do that alone? Dukes wasn't even there to follow him. Like, if Dukes was there to back him up, fair enough. But he just waltzes on in and he hits a big shot, which is why for a moment I thought, oh my gosh, this is dirty, right? Like, you can't just do my guy Cease like this. But Dukes ain't there to back it up. And Nebs just walks in. But it's not going to matter because they go down moments later. It's Quinn who walks in now and picks them 2 up.
They just put a quarter in the machine. In comes a new challenger.
Literally. But this is how these things have gone, Jacob.
Oh, man.
Over and over again.
Let's see, what is the tick right now? Still 1 tick in the zone. Hey, Duke can actually get Edgy back on up. Due to so many eliminations towards Slappy Shores as well, you got to imagine the amount of scrap loot that's still there, the amount of heals that are still around. Duke and Edgy can actually get themselves back into this and kind of use that misstep as a lesson to kind of learn from it and progress as the game. Quantity and threats, though, over on the Rift Island, looking like they're using the shield bubble, kind of play with the line, get the loot, get at least something to work with. With the shield bubble going down, they're either going to have to expend another one or kind of abandon their progress on capturing. They're already inside of the zone here, and this is basically going to see who's going to outlast in the zone, who's going to use all their heals. But honestly, that's going to be a great strategy, because if they could somehow kind of push that other team off, even if they use the other heals, they can capture that point and get more legendary slurp juices for their efforts.
My favorite thing about that shot is that when we were first at this island, like, the house was intact, everything looked good. You come back and like the house is like withered away. Like, these guys are still sitting here. They've aged 50 years as well. Oh man. Threats you've got to think is gonna go down here rather soon. Oh dear. For a moment it was possible. Pablo made it possible. They almost got 1v2'd, but Bevis was able to hit the crucial shots, so it won't happen today.
That could have been dangerous, especially with a common Maven there. It almost either looked like he did low damage or possibly missed that first shot. So he could have easily tried to turn and burn. Maybe it was the overshield that made him kind of didn't really use actual shield or HP. Who knows? Either way, Pablo and Bevis not only win big in that actual fight, they're going to be able to get the capture point. Those pulse rifles, the extra heals, they actually won the jackpot after that one. But how are they going to invest those resources to progress themselves later in this game? Who knows? Only time will tell. As Op and Fluger here at 2 eliminations, 10 points so far. They did get some placement points to get to this point, but the majority of the placement points still have yet to come.
Hey, it's my boy FaZe Replays. Shout out to Replays, man. What a legend. What a goat.
Him and Noah in general, traveling all the way down to San Diego, try to make a huge run. You see Paper and Jamper going down in the feed to Suki and Lame, who actually kind of impressed me big during the heats to get to this point. Cammy and Seti end up in a battle against Static and Trey, kind of going in, gets 2v1. Static on the other side, but Seti takes most of the damage. The bait and switch. Trey just dropped down to just a sliver of HP. Almost makes miracles happen, but in comes that third party to play Busters. That's Vino, that's Queasy, but in comes Robob and Wax as well. A trade for trade. Down goes Vino. Queasy goes on out. Wax is going to be the last man standing, but for how long is he going to be able to get the res? So many questions have now just been brought to fruition.
There's like 7 players that just went down there in like 10 seconds. What's going on?
Something you didn't really expect to see. Everybody's just looking onto the distance. Yo, let's third party that. But if everybody has that same idea, it's no longer a third party. It's like a 4th and 5th party. And what did it cost them? Everything.
Everything. Literally everything. Bro, it's so crazy to me because, like, you see there in that moment, Cammy and Seti are like forced into a fight, right? Like that one team just like walks into their shield bubble and you just have to fight. But then it's like, of course, yeah, it took them a bit too long to win. Like Cammy was kind of milking there at the end. But even then, it's like you just get rolled on. Queasy and Vino walk right in, and then another team walks right in. Wox and Robab now clean things up, or just Wox because Robab's okay. No, Robab is up. Sorry, there was a replay issue there where we couldn't see him for a second. But nevertheless, like it's so ruthless. Like you just get punished for fighting so fast there.
Yeah. You got to give Wox so much credit, though, with all that action going down. He quickly ended the fight to get Robob back up. Same cannot be said for Acorn and Mr. Savage. Down goes Acorn, but a down is actually going to be there. Sun's going to get dropped. That's Alex's teammate who's on the other side of that wall. He gets dropped by Lane and Suki. Acorn just trying to have that attic and claim it as his own. Doesn't want to let anybody enter in. And honestly, he could bypass a lot of this chaos as long as he keeps his position unknown.
Is it possible to bypass chaos here in this lobby? I feel like at every single...
Maybe for a few seconds at most.
Yeah, like, you know, maybe if you hide in some certain corners, but no matter where you are, if the sun can possibly shine there, I feel like you are at risk of just being taken down and taken out. It's so hard. Acorn just sitting up above that building there, and I'm sure he'll wait for his chance to jump in and third party this because Okis and Cracky are right in the midst of a fight. It's going to be Lame that picks one up. Super Key doesn't seem to know just who is waiting above. I don't know if Acorn can do anything.
Go inside of the mind of Acorn here. What's actually going through his mind, seeing all these players right below, all this loot. Even if he doesn't see them, he hears them. But this is just the patience of an expert like Acorn. Letting it all kind of battle down and unfold right below. Full HP, full shields. That's Rox and Robab returning to the seat of the crime. Taking down Lame. Suki tries to get away. Malibuka claims those elimination points as they try to get on out. And now Acorn is really going to have to make a decision here.
Yeah, the zone's forcing him to move, right? And so can't sit there idly anymore. Malibuka and Pink, they are alive deep into this game, which is good. But unfortunately, it seems like I've jinxed that one because Pink goes down. Malibuka's still fighting, but for not much longer. It's a rematch between those two teams. Revised and Reciprocal took them out last game. And here in game 2, they are victorious once again. They have their number right now. But it is Wox and Robab who have just been dominating this lobby. 5 eliminations so far. They have been active and alive this endgame. and it doesn't seem like it's going to stop anytime soon. You can see their position is so strong up at the top of this hill. There's only one other team that has a position that can really rival that.
And somehow I saw on the feed, Acorn not only gets out of the attic, but find 5 more points. Might be one of the only solos left in the game. Opt and Fluger towards the low. They know their shield bubble is going to run out. Quickly tries a kinetic blade, change their location, but into the hands of Agers and Kanata. Using the tree trunk to kind of displace them out of position. They go down overall. And with Kanata getting revived from Agers, giving them a second chance at life, you got to imagine the confidence from them too has to be oozing tenfold.
Yeah, this is really nice for them to be alive this deep, especially after the circumstances of the game earlier on.
This is bad.
Bad for who though is the question. It's bad for them because they're right in the midst of a fight. Kanada, low HP, will fall, and it looks like this game's going to finish right here, right now, because Roban and Wox will take it down.
Yeah, that was a huge victory for us. As soon as I saw that positioning at the end, they're on top of the mountain, just on the edge of zone, whether they had shield bombers or not. That's where I said this is bad. This is bad for everybody else in the lobby because they waited for those last 2 teams to end up in the fight for the knocks to come through, and they just played cleanup crew to get those eliminations and get that VR in the end, and hopefully burst themselves up the leaderboards after game number 2.
We should have known. We should have known after the way they rolled through and third-partied the Queasy and Veno third party onto Cammy and Seti. We should have just known that they were going to roll through and win the game. They were clearly on one, and then everything just sort of knocked into their favor. You see here where they picked up Queasy at the end, but a really impressive performance right there from the Swedes, and hopefully one that they can sort of use as a foundation to build off of and continue to rise up in the standings. You can see at the end here, this final fight, it's just always so difficult, man. In this game here, we're seeing in these first 2 games, Jacob, just the third parties that come through are so hard to deal with.
No, it's definitely one of the more tougher things in zero builds, especially if you don't have the zero build, if you don't have that kinetic blade or any sort of trick up your sleeve to kind of have an escape plan to get on out. And that's where you see Robab and Wox in multiple scenarios, not just there at the end game, throughout the course of that game overall, like you said, third party, and really take advantage of people's lack of awareness or those chaotic moments to go through.
Yeah, well, look, we have plenty more chaotic moments, but if you want to know about them, you got to stick around because we have a quick little break. We'll be back with the leaderboards and play more action.
in the heart of an ancient desert. The land of heroes awaits. Prepare yourself. To witness feats you never thought possible. Records will be broken. Legends will be born. And fortunes will be made. The stage is set. The largest esports and gaming festival the world has ever known. Ready or not, here it comes. Gamers 8, the land of heroes.
Welcome back to the finals of the DreamHack Open featuring First Night, the first stop at the Gamers 8 Tour, the road to the $2 million in-person event. I'm Jacob PR. Join with me once more is Levin2K. And after 2 games, we're seeing the first bit of separation on our leaderboards. And it isn't much, but to kind of keep you guys in mind, it's $250,000 up for grabs, and those top 10 spots go on over to Gamers 8.
Yes, and I'm very excited to see who is currently in our top 10 as we head into game number 3, because as much as it's still relatively early on in the competition, man, we are going to start to see some patterns, some trends, figure out who's really here to stay and who's going to have to go to Dallas and try find a spot at that event, right? But look, big ups to Gamers 8 and to DreamHack, of course, is a brilliant event. Can't lie, that trailer, by the way, Jacob, was super hype. Like, if I'm one of the players, right, and I need motivation before a game, I'm watching that before I head into the game, and I'm putting on the best performance of my life, right? Because I want to be there at Saudi later this year. So yeah, 6th of July, I believe it is. So should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, mark it off. Save the date on your calendar. Make sure you called off work. Make sure you have your excuse ready, because they're going to ask you. They're going to test you on sick. That might not necessarily work. But EU, after 2 games, 11, they have came out strong. Axe Force and Vortex win game number 1. Robab and Wox rightfully deserved that win in game number 2. But where does the leaderboards really shake out? Who has that top spot? And where is that top 10 threshold? Because we talked about the top 10 teams will have earned their spot in Gamers 8 later this year. And it's interesting to see, is any names that kind of you want to predict, or you don't really have to predict as we pull up the leaderboards? Is there any names that kind of pop out for you already in our top 8?
Well, I'm very happy to see, Vortex's Axels, Robab, and Wox doing as well as they're doing, right? Like, that is a very, very good thing, right? Especially for Swedish Fortnite, man. So shout out to those guys. Pink and Malibuka doing as well as I think many people predicted them to do so far in the competition, sitting in 6th right now. Like, that's a nice spot to be at for a duo who, realistically probably isn't going to be competing when it's all said and done, right? In the big moments, right? This is just like a temporary type thing. That's super impressive. Here at the other page, Bizzle Blake, 10th place right now. That's really nice. Shout out to Bizzle and Blake. They're doing really well.
Yep, and it goes to show that 103 is going to be the threshold for now. Only after 2 games, though. But I only bring it up because you look how stacked that leaderboard actually is. 1 point separating 11, 2 more separating 12. About 12 points as you continue to go down. Prospering and Merrick kind of rounding out that leaderboard. Everybody really having a shot here, even down to 24. Sizlucky and Degen. They just need to start thinking about later on in the game. What are they going to do? How are they going to pick up more eliminations? And it doesn't have to be a ton more, because it's still 5 points per elimination, and that is reason why Axe Force and Vortexers still claim that top spot. They had 11 eliminations in their first game, only picking up 4 in that last, but they still have roughly a 6-point lead.
Well, yeah, with the nature of the format, the teams who are popping off and getting them elims are going to be the teams who are higher up in the standings, right? And I think the big thing, right, to sort of take away from that as well is how are the best teams getting their elimination? We're seeing it having that timing on point. The 3rd parties, the 4th parties, the 5th parties, right? You want to be the last team to jump into the fight, essentially. Both of our winners in game 1 and 2 were the teams that were doing it the best in those games, right? Game 1, Axels and Vortexes always seem to be there to sweep up. Game 2, it was Wox and Robab's turn to do that.
Yeah, and particularly Axe Force and Vortexers, they're starting off their games building that confidence. They're going up against Caskers and Clarities. I do believe it's towards Breakwater Bay at the northwestern part of the map. So if you're starting off kind of getting those eliminations, you're building your confidence, you're claiming your POI, and slowly but surely beginning to kind of rotate in, that's how you continue to build that momentum and hold on to that consistency throughout the tournament. But, I talked about consistency, 4 eliminations, going down in 22nd place. They have to have, progressively better games as the day does go on if they want to hold on to their spot. I know Fluger and Opt are doing very, very well themselves. They had a 5th and a 10th place, and I'm kind of looking at 11 eliminations so far between them two. So you got to be able to kind of match that consistency through and through. You don't necessarily need those VRs and those top finishes every single game.
Yeah, a couple pop-off games here and there will do you wonders, right? They will do you wonders. I'm sure a lot of the teams, right, who currently sit in some of the higher positions, especially right with some of the EU ones, I'm sure we will see them, especially later towards the year, at like the DreamHack Summers of the world, right, and at those events in Sweden, especially if you're like Wox and Robban, for example, right, that's like a home event for you, right? So I'm sure we'll see a lot of those teams later on in the year. They'll be able to get some reps in, some practice in, regardless of where they place today. I think the big thing is you can already see where some of those guys are just more experienced. They're comfortable in this environment, right? Especially for the Swedish guys, they've had the DreamHack Winter, DreamHack Summer. They've played at those events, they bring your own computer type setup. They're comfortable. They are ready for this moment, and they're showing out so far today.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize like how comfortable you have to be, because it's not just like playing a regular old in-person event. This is a DreamHack event. This is a major event for so many other, games as well. You're going to have noise out the arena. You're going to have crowds kind of crowding around you. So you got to be ready to play not only on a big stage that DreamHack is providing you, but play with, so much noise, so many different distractions. So you got to be able to focus up when it matters most. So that's why I want to kind of give credit to for a team like Revised and Reciprocal. They're slowly but surely each and every season building more and more stock to their name, to where they are becoming more and more noticed, more and more noticeable, to where if you don't see them in some of these end games, you're more surprised. And I like the way they're doing it from the regular build modes, consistently trying to be one of those teams to take high ground. And in these 0 build modes, you talked about kind of getting those eliminations and third partying. They're one of those teams that are kind of inching themselves to be one of the more aggressive teams in the lobby.
Yeah, and I really like the point you made there about being able to sort of stay locked in no matter what's happening around you, because there will be a lot happening around you, right?
Yeah.
There will be your fellow competitors getting taken out, raging, slamming desks, shouting, doing all the works. I remember last year, DreamHack Summer, we were casting like the final game, and it's like a concert starts mid game, So it's like, I'm casting the game, I'm oops in my ear, So you always got to stay locked in regardless of the environment around you.
And it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do, but with 2 games down, 4 more to go, we're going to jump into game number 3, the last game realistically of the half, and honestly the 3rd straight bus path that kind of differs so much. West to east, north to south is going to be the pool. So typically, instead of seeing the early brutal bastion, this time around we're going to see some shattered slabs in our western side of the teams that are contested. I think I'm doing the running man just right out of the gates.
Yeah, that might cost him though, because he's going to be running right back to the lobby. Axe Force is currently down. That leaves Vortexes to fend off Spawn. And this is a fight that they've won in the previous games, but it looks like Clarity and Casca here in game 3 are looking a lot better. And yeah, Vortexes will be snuffed out. That is going to be it for our team, who was doing so well high up in the standings, but now we'll just give everybody else in the lobby a chance to catch up.
Yeah, that was a huge cutoff as well, because you saw he was trying to go for the kinetic blade. He was trying to go for an escape route, and he can later backtrack with how long those reboot cards have on them in towards that top left side of the map, assuming the zone does not pull here. So its zone is, or the kinetic blade is still there. That would have been a great escape plan as Mappy and Fanajan against Jaith and Yamzo. They've been more times than not kind of really taking it to them. Once more at that, down goes Yamzo, down goes Jaith, and it goes to show that sometimes you just got to land at a spot that you're more familiar with. Yamzo has never really landed here before, unlike Fanajan and Map, who have so much familiarity with this side of the map.
Yeah, and that familiarity is everything. Fanajan and Mappy are also pretty decent off-spawn fighters, so if you're Yamzo, you might want to reconsider moving forward, especially with a lack of success here in game 3.
Checks and bolts. At first, they weren't necessarily landing over here towards Slappy, switching it up. I wouldn't call it the last second. but later than Edgy and Duke would have hoped. Not a ton of time to really plan about this contested, but a lot of damage going down onto Vortex early on. Duke and Edgy trying to close the gap, finish that one off, but so much damage by Vortex to kind of back him up. You see the extra kinetic blade towards the top, but Duke cannot grab two. He's just trying to go up and over, grab that additional angle with the combat shotgun that could do so much, but that third party coming in from South Slap, he's going to stop him dead in his tracks.
Yeah, and he needs healing and fast. Like, he needs to really find something. I'm sure you'll be praying Chug Jug just magically get added back to the game and he can pick one up right now, because the HP and the shields are not looking good at all. I believe that was a med miss, maybe that he uses to get his white HP back up. Either way, they should be good. Sorry. They are just going to sort of play things a lot slower now. Be a bit patient.
Yep. Everybody kind of playing towards the long game as this one does progress. Only 10 players down overall, but only 4 teams. So we got a couple solos running around. Mappy and Fanaj. And this is where I wonder, one of the hiring NPCs is over on this side of the map. I haven't seen anybody really utilize it to perfection just yet. But I'm interested to see if anybody's going to try to pull that trick underneath their sleeve. Down goes Jack. Rotten. Twinkie's probably somewhere trying to hide. Bring him back into the game later on. Hopefully he had the kinetic blade to try to keep his show on the road. Maybe a slap juice. Something to work with to try to create some distance between him and Degen as he's lucky.
Yeah, you can see Degen is clearly very, very hungry for this limb, and he'll be rewarded.
Reet and Epic well on the feed, taking down Trey and Statics. Rotten Twinkie's going to go down right before our very eyes. Back on over to the Slappy Shores fight, where Edgy and Duke forced to use the first of what could be many shield bubbles as they get third party towards the outside, trying to grab that additional angle on the Volts and Vortex, who've actually seemed a little bit more comfortable after that first initial fight. You see the slap juices, high ground going on over to Volks, running out of ammo, but he finds that Havoc lying around and an extra bit of shotgun ammunition to work with. But you see him bypassing that red eye at first before going to backtrack and pick it up, dropping the empty egg launcher. And this is where it's going to be interesting. It seems like they're just hot on the heels, chasing around Duke and Edgy, trying to pick up those eliminations. End up in an aim duel, but Volks just receives so much damage. Him and Vortex, they're forced to backtrack.
This is really tough of a spot to be in, but Duke making things a lot more playable for them. It's going to leave Edgy in a 1v2, and certainly a winnable 1v2, but not one that he would have wanted to be involved in at all. Will they allow him to get the revive off? That's the question.
Yeah, in the mini-map, that third party slowly but surely trying to peek on over, land some extra shots. Edgy just playing phenomenally here in this 1v2, shooting some shots through the steps, but oversteps his boundaries, gets a little too greedy. But I talked about that third party. The distance has definitely been closed. Threats and quantity slowly but surely sneaking up, taking advantage of 2 weak players, sending them back to the lobby and getting 10 more points for their efforts.
Now look, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but the third parties, man, it is just the third parties that are really just working out. And I think the big thing is you know, when you get third partied in regular battle royale, where you can build, you can sort of use your builds to create separation, especially if you've just picked up a refresh, right? You'll have the siphon match, especially in these off spawn fights. You typically will have a mat advantage over your opponents, right? You ain't got that. You ain't got that. So if a player walks into your building, you just gotta fight them. In the case of Acorn and Mr. Savage, they aren't going to win that fight. It's Pablo and Pevies who will win it out. And so, Mr. Toji like you'll have to watch from the sidelines. Oh my goodness. It's the third parties, Jacob. I'm telling you.
The rebounds, the alley-oop, the dunks that we're seeing right now. This is just getting very, very dangerous, honestly. And this being the third game, it's really going to play a little bit of mental games on some of these players. Do they go for those fights very early on? Is it worth going after the damage? Because sometimes, yes, you're going to pick up those points. You're going to pick up 10. Sometimes if you third party correctly, you pick up 15 points. But as soon as the teams continue to jump in, it almost makes it not worth to go for it. Let somebody else clean it up if you do get a knock, as Tavern and Justice switching things up this time around. Not going for that south side of Naughty Nets where you get that guaranteed kinetic edge this time around. It's going to be Fluger and Opt to claim that one around. They're going to get at least one kinetic blade for their efforts. It's going to be on the back of Fluger. And since they are in zone, they don't have to travel far. They're just kind of playing this one slow and steady to try to win this race.
Yeah, Fluger and Opt are the Naughty Nets bosses right now. These guys are the Naughty Nets kings, cannot be stopped at this POI. And I'd be surprised if that changed. I really like the way they've played things off spawn. So see if they're able to get out. Of course, obviously me saying that means that now they will be cursed and will probably lose here now for the rest of today. But that's a duo that's really impressed me. Kika and Jivy. What is this spot? How do you even end up here? How do you get out of here if you are here? Because this is a very awkward situation.
Especially with Empen not having a kinetic blade. That's a real question of how they ended up. But we can see how Jivy and Kika are going to get out of this position overall. The shield bubble, drifter combination. Quickly trying to open the distance between them and their opponents. And honestly, they absolutely need to. They don't have very many heals. One chug splash between the both of them. And that's why you see them entering a POI like Slappy Shorts. And that's why you think an augment like Treasure Hunter would be so good in a situation like this. It kind of spots out chests that are in POIs once you enter them. But even if they're going to get the chance, Quanti and Threats want to kind of close that opportunity. And luckily for Quanti and Threats, or Kika and GV, I should say, that one chug splash kind of phantoms that they're fully healed up. As you see, GV just has about half shield there in a situation like this. It could be a good opportunity for Threats and Quanti to try to go in, clean up while they have the health advantage.
Yeah, I think they are just going to wait to line up that right shot. You see the heavy sniper being used to break some of that cover they have from the building.
They're going to get out, but I think the zone just keeps pulling over here towards Slappy, but Trashy and Pump, the third team, to really interrupt this Naughty Nets POI, but Trashy just takes too much damage. That's Opt and Fluger are really taking advantage, but Pump gets the knock onto one. Fluger, just a sliver of HP, gets sent down as well. Luckily for Pump, they're going to be one of the last teams remaining over on this side of the map, so an easy reboot is going to be had. And
of course, as I mentioned how good they've been at Naughty Nets, they go down and they lose. But against a very impressive team, right? Trashy and Pump are one of the better teams in this lobby, so no shame in that. I think the problem there, right, was that Flugel was so low after winning this fight. I'm surprised Flugel even won his 1v1 because he was so incredibly low. And I think at that point, if you're Opt, you just have to stay alive, right? Give Fluger a chance to regroup, fight as a 2v1 instead of the 1v1s. But unfortunately, they will have to go back again next time. Another thing that made it obviously very difficult is that Trashy and Pump obviously sort of just waltzed in here, right? They weren't the team that initially was landing here. And so in that sense, indirectly, and less of a fast-paced third party, but still a third party nonetheless, Jacob has been the trend for today. So Trashy and Pump will win here at Naughty Nets.
And Fanaj and Mappy will win what seems like with their two eliminations against Eamzo and Jaith yet again. Ref's Guard and Hellfire, we already saw them third party. One team so far, and they're just trying to cement this house as their own. And honestly, I like what they did. They broke open some of the builds, not being next to the windows, trying to hide their position as much as possible. They have that exotic accelerated Maven shotgun, so not only is it going to ramp up as each shot does hit, you're able to get that siphon and kind of move around rather quickly. Seen it almost save the day once before here, but the timing wasn't there. Kind of land those shots. Degen and Sizz lucky right on side. The outside of that house in the bush. Thor can blur. Have some distance to cover as we saw this one. And this is what makes it so interesting for some of these teams that do have the kinetic blade. You see them not using that one to kind of rotate so far. They're trying to save those charges just in case they do get shot at. Kind of use it as like a get out of jail free card because you cannot build here in zero builds. So you don't have much defensive efforts to go through if you don't want to waste those shield bubbles. But oh my God, Jackson just gets taken down by Vert and Quinn, who are just reading some books next to those bookshelves.
That is so tough. Vert and Quinn, they do the spectacular. They do what everybody wishes they could do. In that they are sitting there camping and the team just walks right into their crosshairs. That's real tough if you're on the receiving end. But if you are the team that pulls it off, it's very satisfying, to say the least.
Just reading those books, how to get elims in zero builds. It was like picture proof of like how to set up a tent, get some s'mores, and you just wait for your opponents to come to you, but they're just outside of zone, barely outside of zone at that, but nonetheless, they do got some distance to cover, and there's another team, Clasker and Clarity, is very close nearby.
They're doing the same thing.
Outside the edge of zone as well. Yep, just waiting for anybody to really come near.
They're not reading books, though.
Nope. They're just have their audio cranked up, just waiting for somebody to kind of have some sort of misstep, make some sort of audio cue. Blake and Bizzle, they got themselves some good real estate. During the summer, this has got to be a good ocean. But for now, it's just iced up. No, you think they like ice fishing?
Bizzle seems like the kind of guy
yeah, I was about to say
fishing.
Bizzle might.
Yeah, Bizzle seems like the kind of guy to enjoy fishing. So probably they are in 10th, right? Or at least coming into this game, they were the team in 10th. So they've been doing something right, and this game will be huge for them if they can go into the halfway point, sitting, you know, deep into that top 10. Like that is gonna be wonderful for their confidence. Bizzle, regardless of where he stands in sort of rankings and considerations amongst NA players, always seems to show us some sort of performance when it comes to lands.
Yeah, like Thoric and Blur, they're just taking our time. Blur, even though some people might not necessarily know his names, he's actually a grinder when it comes to 0 builds. Multiple top finishes in a few different tournaments. And that's why you see him kind of teaming up with some of our big names here. Zerfi's and Reciprocal, just trying to take the high ground. I do believe it's Reciprocal that does have the key to the vault. And they're trying to play keep away from everybody else. Instead of directly going for all that loot that is in the vault, they're letting the zone kind of go in. They're forcing all these teams to kind of go forward ahead. And that's where they're going to try to strike and open up that vault and just kind of keep the loot to themselves. Thoric and Blur, we were just talking about them. But Baka and Pars, big name in the NA region, formerly from NA West. Baka and Pars, multiple top finishes as well. They both played in the FNCS Invitational, so no strangers to the international competition.
Yeah, they've been able to do what many can't say they've done. They've been able to do what many, or literally everybody playing in this competition wants to do, right? Play in a LAN final in a nice big venue somewhere far from where they typically play their Fortnite games. Pars and Baka gonna use these nades now. None of the nades gonna connect. Close by though. But the problem here for Blur and Thoric is, look at their position at the bottom here of this hill. Gonna have to tank some Storm if they want to get into a better position and wrap round potentially. Okay, no, shouldn't have to tank much though. Should be able to run round towards this right hill, or at least use the kinetic blades towards the right here before getting into Brutal Bastion, which is nice. But they will have to be careful because there is still a team here in Bastion and they should be wary of.
Honestly, they actually did get helped out by none other than a third party yet again. The team
What a surprise.
that was hunting over them. A little bit of height on that mountain, that was Pars and Baka. They got tagged up in the distance, which kind of allowed Thoric and Blur a little more comfortability, a little more safety to use the kinetic blade to get themselves out of that position. That was a bad one as well. They would have been forced to use another shield bubble, a valuable resource that you want to have later on in the game. Trashy and Pump on one side. Queasy and Vino, somebody I do want to see more of. A team that I want to see make it later on in these games. They're a huge threat in the lobby once they're able to really catch their stride.
Yeah, they've been, one of the best doers in the world. Queasy has been one of the best zero build players in the world. And so, especially after their performance in Heat 1, you've got to think, right? It's pretty simple, isn't it? Just go out there, do what you do, lads, and go secure a qualification spot. Time is still there to make that happen, right? Of course, we have the remainder of this game and then 3 more games after this. Everybody congregating around Slacky Shores.
Everybody's just purchasing condos and apartments.
Literally.
This one's mine. What does it cost you? Probably 100,000 V-Bucks. And this is where in the distance, Gooden and Bowfrink spot out a team in the bush. They're trying to create some distance between them and everybody else, but they then become the target and the focus in the lobby. Degen and Sizzluck, you see that they get tagged up. The Mythic Havoc trying to pack a punch and keep Bowfink alive, but he loses his teammate along the way. But a blow for blow, 1 for 1. Degen's going to be the one that ends up on top. And the biggest thing is he saves Sizzlucky from going down overall. But the third parties, who would have guessed it, N-Pen and D-Roller close the distance. Play cleanup crew. Just clean waste 5 more points. That's all they get. But more importantly, look how much loot they're able to claim as their own.
Jacob, as you were calling those final moments of the fight there, but I literally looked in the bottom right and I saw the yellow arrows just running in, And I was like, ah, of course there's a third party coming. Of course there is. But that is the name of the game in these lobbies, right? You want to be able to roll on in. It looks like D-Roller and M-Pen want to do that again here. Source gets taken out. Kami and Seti witnessed it happen, and it looks like they want to actually get in on some of the action and potentially fight as well. They're sort of running and posturing themselves on this hill here. They know they're in the bush.
Like there's one team this game around. It's N-Pen and D-Roller. It's like an unlocked augment that nobody else has. Like sense when somebody's weak within 50 meters of you or something, kind of pings them out, and they immediately go for it.
Stop giving them ideas.
That's gonna be an augment, and I guarantee you that's gonna be Queasy and Vino's favorite augment. They're gonna terrorize the lobby on high ground, just spotting out every player that's weak below like 50 HP within 50 meters. It's gonna light up like the 4th of July. N-Pen and D-Roller though, only 2 eliminations for their third-party efforts so far, but it's the loot that they've been able to gather and the loot they're going to be forced to use in a situation like this. D-Roller being dropped down to just 4 HP, using both chug splashes and slurp juice to keep himself alive. Quinn and Vert having a little bit of pizza party on the outside of zone. They didn't send out any invitations to anybody else, and they're quickly just going to scramble up the food and make their way to the zone.
Yeah, but once they make their way in, then there will be a team waiting for them here, or at least one player. Trashy and Pump are just behind that truck. They need to be careful. Yeah, the shield bubble has to be dropped now. And the pizza there will get him back up in terms of the HP as well. But Trash and Pump waiting right there. The shield bubble barely allowing them to stay in the zone.
See Reciprocal get 2 on a scram and tripper him with his teammate going down. I didn't see if he got cleaned up overall, but the vault loot really proven to be the distance. Trashy and Pump.
Oof.
They were basically taken down by Jivvy in the truck last game. This time around, you see them utilizing the truck. Quinn and Vert is going to be right in front of them and on screen, trying to pop some shots. The OCE's best Jace over there in the distance, who now becomes a target on top of the tree. Who would have thought that's not the best place to be? He gets taken down by Lame overall. Alex, another huge player from OCE, taken down Epic well in the feed. Reed's going to get dropped by Accept as well. So another one of our superstar teams here in the lobby get taken down.
Yeah, and it's not quite been their day, right? It's not been their tournament as a whole, to be fair to them. They've struggled to find any sort of meaningful rhythm. Paz, though, unfortunately loses backer here. So he's going to hop in the truck and just try drive off. And to be fair, D-Roller lets him get away. Vino in the feed gets taken out there. And we're seeing remnants of what was at least Vino in the past. Unfortunately for Vert, though, he won't even be able to profit from it, because right there, it's Noah who waltzes on in, and he's going to continue his pursuit with replays by his side. And there will be opportunities because Trashy and Pump are right there, and they didn't drop the shield bubble in time, and so 70 damage will be taken. But this dude has to get to zone, but they just want to fight. They just want to get in. They don't want to stop anytime soon, and it might just work out for them. And yes, it will. Noah picks up both. Replays needs to be revived. Will he have time, though? It doesn't seem like it. Queasy, he wants some revenge. He's not going to get it. Noah takes him out, but he can't go any longer. He runs out of gas, runs out of steam. And it's another team that will waltz on in and take that loot.
I don't even know if we can call it third parties anymore. These are fourth parties, fifth parties. Fortnite sent out invitations and didn't even tell anybody. These dealer on M-Pen were able to skate past all that right below, getting themselves a position with a little bit of height. Cammy and Seti nearby got themselves a little bit of trench. Muzz is going to get taken down in the distance, trying to kinetic blade his way to safety. And I like this loadout from D-Roller. Mythic and epic different variations, and you see the chug gun as well to kind of keep themselves in tip-top shape once they take these battles in the distance. And they're absolutely going to need this because they have one of the more farther pulls when it comes to zero pills, which is going to be a nightmare for them if they don't have some sort of strategy already down packed. Oh, I love the effort actually coming out from Bizzle.
I really like the effort. Yeah, almost close, but no cigar.
We have legendary slurp juices, chug splashes. He's gonna go ahead and drop the chug gun. Go ahead and keep it going. Mappy and Fanajin is gonna go ahead and take advantage of damage they put down onto Blake. Bizzle's just gonna try to run out, survive as a solo. Even hits a ride into Fatch. But he's gonna go down. Third party, fourth party, fifth party coming in. Pam, someone Fatch even taken part into this one, but I think Pamso got taken down, or at least knocked there into the distance. Seti and Cammy quickly dropped her down the shield bubble to try to protect themselves on the edge of zone. Fanage getting tagged out of the sky, but quickly drops the shield bubble in the nick of time, but so many teams are beginning to go on the hunt and chase him down.
Yeah, but you're seeing just why the shield bubbles have been meta. Give you that extra bit of protection for a couple moments, couple seconds, before you can rethink your plan. And you can see right now the plan for Crackly and Okas is to just sneak up on here, and it might just work out for them. Missing that first shot, but it won't matter. They pick up one, and Mappy now running all around into the truck, and it might just be his doom. The pulse rifle cleans him up.
Just quickly hopping into the passenger seat. Maybe they won't notice me, he says to himself moments before disaster. Mention how great they're doing. Enpen and Lame both getting taken out of the sky. And we just have seen our final 3 teams really present themselves. Seti and Cammy, Quanti and Threats. And over on the other side, Crackly and Okas. Everybody really trying to stay alive. Quanti and Threats just trying to use the shield bubble in the car, inching themselves closer. Honestly, the team that is going to be the last with the shield bubble is going to be the one that is worst off. And that might be Seti, that might be Cammy. And that's why they're using the natural, unbreakable terrains to their advantage.
Yeah, and look, props to Seti and Cammy, just in their typical style. They've made it to this stage in the game with only the 2 eliminations. Their counterparts can't quite say the same. Quanti and Threats have 6 so far this game. Okas and his duo have 7. But Seti and Cammy will need to try find some if they have any hope of staying alive in this one. No, it's not going to happen. Seti falls. Cammy just trying to get out of dodge as quickly as possible. And for just a couple moments, he will. And that leaves time for these 2 teams to face off against each other in a final 2v2. And it looks like Threats is not going to be a beneficiary of it. Crackly and Okas hitting big shots. Them pulse rifles are so hard to deal with. Cammy finally falls now. And so Quanti just has to tip over before Okas and Crackly can claim game 3.
Yep. You saw, I think we said Seti there towards the outside. He really ran to the outside of zone. I saw at one point or another, he had 7 different splashes. For him, he wasn't necessarily playing for the VR. He was playing for that second place, that little bit of extra points to kind of boost himself towards the top. But the Victory Royale does go out, and our top competitors in that lobby all picked up 6 or more eliminations. So eliminations or lone 11 have netted them at least 30+ points.
That's huge games. Huge games from both teams. Games that will certainly impact our standings significantly as we head over into the last half of the competition. Those first 3 games, though, Jacob, very, very interesting stuff all around. I think we found our common theme. No, it's not shield bubbles. It's all of the third-party fights, right? Nobody can really get space to breathe. Once you engage in a battle, you have to expect another team's going to roll through right after.
Yeah, and that goes to show like how different Zero Build is actually playing out. Oh, wow. Mappy just looking like an action figure right there. Slicing and dicing his way through the competition. But it just goes to show that, honestly, the moments that some people are seeing is a lot of the downtime that some people are really thinking here in this game, that there's not a lot of action going on. It's a lot of the thinking that you see. The timing has to be pristine. It has to be perfect if you're looking to kind of third party, fourth party, especially the later on this games go, the more action-packed those third parties actually go, more people trying to steal away the eliminations, take people out of their lobby, make their jobs that much easier. So it just goes to show that, man, it's just so much more thought goes into the process, into Zero Builds.
Yeah, it's not just a third party, it's a domino effect, right? One domino knocks over the other, and then it's a constant pendulum of just dominoes knocking each other over. Regardless, though, these games have been incredibly fun, Jacob. I'm having a great time casting them with you, and we have 3 more on the way. So we're going to head over for a quick break. When we're back, we have the last 3 games of the competition.
Welcome back once more to the DreamHack Open featuring Fortnite in San Diego. I am Jacob PR, and this is Levin 2K by my side. The halfway point is among us, and even though we haven't seen the leaderboard just yet, Levin, I think this is going to be one of the closest competitions that we've seen in zero builds in quite a while.
Yeah, the margins are so tight, right? Because anybody can have a real pop-off game that just rockets you up the standings, right? 5 points per elimination is huge.
Yeah, and we've already seen a close leaderboard after the first two games, so I would imagine third isn't going to be that much different, especially since I did see Axe Force and Vortexers go down rather early in that last game, opening up an opportunity for everybody else to kind of not only close the gap, but kind of make a stride for that first place on the leaderboard overall. But you know what we're fighting for? Into the top 10 to go to Gamers 8 as well. In first place, we got North America's very own Agers and Kanata, which
Oh,
leads
wow.
the story true. They struggled a little bit in the heats to get up into this point, but with no money on the lights to heats, all you need to do is qualify. They've not only taken that chance, but they've skyrocketed with it.
Yeah, the last two games have been, very impressive from them, right? Third place, 5 eliminations, seventh place, 4 eliminations, some real steady Eddie games that have, shot them into first place. And if you can stay consistent in this format, it will do wonders for you, right? Because it is a format that will definitely reward like a big pop-off game. But if you're staying consistent as well, boy, oh boy. Look, really nice though to see some players moving up in the standings. My boys Pink and Malibuka, they've dropped down a bit, unfortunately, just outside of the top 10 now. Same can be said for Bizzle and Blake, who are now sitting in 14th. Before game 3, they were sitting in 10th, right? So these guys need to start picking things up a bit.
Yep, 157th is going to be that threshold for top 10. To remind you guys, top 10 goes to Gamers 8, a $2 million in-person event happening later this year. And you see a lot of players kind of fighting tooth and nail, 157 points. And as I scroll down the leaderboard, I think anybody with 100 points right now has the best shot to kind of catch up. Obviously, I think with great pop-off performances, it's 5 points per elimination, so you can kind of mimic some of the games we were seeing yesterday, double-digit elimination games mixed with that Victory Royale. You can easily put yourself in contention of not only getting that top 10, but getting the lion's share of that $250,000 players are also fighting for.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is, right, going into these last 3 games, the players have had a bit of a break, a chance to, go use the bathroom, grab a bit of food, a quick munch, whatever. You got to come into these last 3 games locked in, focused. If things haven't been working, switch things up a little bit, adjust the strategy, adjust the plan. We've seen what works in these games. A lot of pulse rifles, a lot of shield bubbles, and a lot of third party. And that seems to be the formula for success for a lot of teams right now.
Yeah, that third party is kind of dominantly being one of those factors, but you're kind of seeing players kind of really utilize their heals just a little bit more, staggering themselves out more so in those 5th, 6th, even 7th zones to try to give themselves as much advantage in an inevitable fight. Because, as the zones continue to close later on in the game, especially in zero builds where you can't really protect yourself by placing a build, those fights are going to come to fruition. So you want to at least start thinking 3, 4 steps ahead, try to give yourself some advantage, take a couple of ticks of the zone to deal, 30, 40, depending on if you 3-2-1 along with a teammate. So a lot of interesting strategies to go down, but first place right now, Agers and Kanata, only 6 points differential. And I talked about the close gap between 10th place and everybody else. Realistically, the entire leaderboard is close to one another.
Yeah, very, very close. And it's really tough, these games, man, because, I think what we're seeing a lot of the times is that the fights are so all in, right? You can't start a fight really and disengage it. That's very rare that we see that happen. It's like fights happen and then more fights happen as a result of that fight. Whereas typically in Battle Royale, a fight can happen and it could just never actually conclude, right? Players have a bunch of mats, they can build away from each other, this, that, and the works. Here, if another team just aggresses you, you might not even want to fight. I might not want to fight, but if a team just aggresses you, it's done. You have to take the fight and you have to go all in.
Yeah, honestly, seeing how close the leaderboard is, and as I look at it just a little bit more, most elims a single team has at this stage in the game is 15, and that's Act Force and Vortex. There's 11 of those coming in the first game. Right behind them, you have 2 teams with Fluger and Opt and Crackling Ocus with 14 eliminations. So you got to realize that even though that's not a ton of eliminations, with 5 points per elimination, they are really going to make a difference in a leaderboard that is this close throughout each and every one of the heats to get up into this point. In our last and final game, we've seen teams qualify in that last game with with eliminations and Victory Royale. So I don't think the finals is going to be any different as long as one team doesn't begin to pull away in our second half.
Look, let's think about here why we haven't seen teams maybe chain a bunch of eliminations together, right, and have crazy big games consistently. It's so hard. You can't.
It
You
is.
take two fights and then it's like you're done. Like, at what point, right, are you able to actually, you know, get a bunch of eliminations and get like a double-digit game consistently? It's so difficult. Because taking fights in this current meta for Zerbo is just such a coin flip almost, right? Because if you can't close out the fight quickly, which we're seeing is very hard to do because people are using shield bubbles to protect themselves, you finish a fight, you're low HP, another team swoops in. So it's very difficult. And that's why when we do see it happen, when it's rarely happened, you got to big it up. You got to hype it up because it is a very big thing.
Yep. So right before we get this lobby going, we're going to show you once more what all these teams are fighting for. Gamers 8, that $2 million in-person event, which is right around the corner.
In the heart of an ancient desert, the land of heroes awaits. Prepare yourself. To witness feats you never thought possible. Records will be broken. Legends will be born. And fortunes will be made. The stage is set. The largest esports and gaming festival the world has ever known. Ready or not, here it comes. Gamers 8, the land of heroes.
I love the sound of that. It almost gives me chills right now. The largest esport event in the world. And honestly, it is going to be something that is going to be hard to top. That experience is why a lot of these players are fighting. Of course, that prize money adds that extra edge as well. And that's why you see, man, top 10 is going to be so important here in the lobby that is this close.
Yeah, no, I can't lie. I was fortunate enough to be there last year, Jacob, and after
You
last
were.
year's event, we were like, how are they going to top this? Like, how? Like, it can't get bigger and better than this, right? Like, this is crazy. And then it's like, we're announcing it for this year, and they've topped it. It's gotten bigger. It's gotten better. So, yeah, if you're one of the players there at San Diego, you know, you will be doing everything in your power to make sure you're there. If it doesn't happen here at San Diego, you're going to be at Dallas. If it doesn't happen at Dallas, you're going to be at
True.
Sweden in summer. So, I'm sure loads of players all around the world will be trying their best, you know, and that's why we've seen so many come from all different regions, right? We have so much region representation here. And so, yeah, I think when you watch that video, especially, how can you not want to be there?
Yeah, and honestly, I think this is a huge event for some of these players, more specifically the ones that might not have that big name that are associated with, thanks to FNCS already. We talked about Queasy, Vino, we talked about Seti, Cammy, FNCS Invitational champions, and a lot of these players that have really made a name for themselves. But the ones that might be going under the radar, they have the skill, but they haven't had that spotlight just yet. An event like this, San Diego, is just the first stop on their road to Gamers 8 and their first stop to kind of raising their stock a little bit in the scene. I think after this event, we're going to see some teams shift around just a little bit. And if you perform very well, like we see some of these players already doing, I think it's going to open up some eyes. One of the names that I'm looking at, Fluger, currently sitting in 4th place. I think he got 3rd place in one of the first zero build third-party events in the Tapman tournament. So it's going to be interesting to see if people begin to notice how skilled Fluger actually is in these zero build events.
Well, look, from what we've seen today, I've definitely seen it. I was really impressed with their approach to fighting off spawn naughty nets. Unfortunately, you know, it didn't quite happen for them in the last game. Unfortunately, right, they got third party, but one of the best teams in the lobby, in Trashy and Pump. But you know, for the most part today, everything they've shown me has been super top level stuff, right? And so again, it is shown there is a pathway open for the players who maybe don't come from that conventional, you know, battle royale background of being pros and then just competing in these tournaments to really make a name for themselves.
Yep, he's also one of our collegiate players. Talked about Revise and Reciprocal as well. consistently improving step after step, event after event. But I want to give some shine to, Alex from OCE, 13th place, a region that I don't think a lot of people give respect to the top professional players over there. They can fight with the best of them, and which is why they're in this tournament and they're in contention of even going to that Gamers 8 event later this year. I think each and every opportunity for these international competitions is just going to help everybody in Fortnite progress in skill overall.
Yeah, and just from like a personal standpoint of like, if you're one of those OC players, just making the trips out to these events, right? It's a commitment. It's not easy. The long flight times, I'm sure, can be hard, but these guys do it, and they are very passionate and they grind. And let's hope one of them will at least get the rewards reaped for that. If you finish top 10, it will be all worth the while.
Yep. Just kind of remind you guys that the leaderboards, Kanata sitting in first place, 181 points, only 6 points between him and second place, which is Crackley and Okus. And as we continue to slide down that leaderboard, the threshold that we're looking at for the second half, 157 points, which is now housed by NPen and D-Roller. Right below them, though, 2 points, your boys over from EU, Pink and Malibuca. And with 3 games left, and with the point in the format structure, 60 points for the VR, 5 points per elimination, I don't think we're going to see a clear winner until maybe that 5th game when the dust settles going into that 6th. And that's a huge maybe because the way they've been turning out, first place, our top competitors going down rather early, and then everybody else kind of stepping it up once they see that opportunity present itself. I think this is going to come down to literally our 6th and final game.
Yeah, and thankfully we are much closer to getting to that 6th and final game, because here we have game number 4. The battle bus is finally fully loaded with all of our wonderful players who are ready to go in their attempt to compete for those spots for the Gamers 8 $2 million land in Saudi Arabia later this year. Crackly on the right of our screens, Ages as well on the bottom right, our first place team.
I like this view. You got to really see where our top 2 teams are landing, how contested they actually are. For Agers, a little bit more clean. For Crackley and Okus, you can see kind of what they've been dealing with off spawn every single game, going against the likes of Acorn and Mr. Savage. It's not too easy players to go against by any means, and that's going to be a great find for Crackley right out of the gates. Basically a full-on loadout. Add in the shields from the shield keg with the kinetic blade. He's definitely going to be able to pack a punch onto Acorn and Mr. Savage if they don't see this one coming.
The element of surprise, it goes a long way, especially in these Anvil fights.
Wow.
Here, a fight we've seen many times today between Clarity G and Casca versus Vortexes and Axe Force, and once again, it will go in the favor of Axe Force and Vortexes. They did have a game off, but now they are back. Better than ever.
Yep, already kind of swinging for the fences. 2 elims, but Edgy kind of oversteps his boundaries just a little bit. That's Volks hiding up the top. Quickly sprays him down with the Twig Mag, but both players trading shots back and forth. Neither team wanted to drop a player rather quickly, but Edgy with a quick backfire shot gets that first knock on the Vortex. Duke there to back him up. 2 HP and a dream, Levin. He makes it happen, along with Edgy as well, barely living with slivers of HP in that first fight.
It doesn't get much closer than that. Both players going incredibly low, but yet pulling through. And look, we were bigging up the OCE boys before this game. That's 2 OCE players who just get taken out there. But it was so close. Edgy and Duke, so they're clearly feeling very confident for what we've seen from him in these fights, Jacob. They're not willing to, they're not shying away from them, I should say. They're very willing to take fights wherever and whenever. Same can be said here for Degen and Sizlucky.
And for both of these fights, from what we've seen so far in the lobbies, it's very crucial that they finish them as quick as they actually did, because if somebody gets a kinetic blade off spawn and they hear this action going down, there's Shattered Slab, which is nearby this place, so anybody can kind of close the distance in the blink of an eye and try to play cleanup crew, including Blake and Bizzle. They don't necessarily land in Anvil Square, split drop just north of it. They got a kinetic blade, they got the loot that they wanted. They're immediately trying to take advantage of this Anvil Square fight, which they know is contested right out of the gates.
Yeah, and Anvil Square is traditionally one of those POIs that the off-spawn fights can be a bit slower. The nature of zero builds means that it is a bit faster, than what we would see in like a regular Battle Royale game. But even then, over at Mega City, where the fights can be a lot quicker. We're seeing Chinese Chicken is no match there for Reciprocal. Reciprocal, who has been so impressive today. And they are very much sitting high up in the standings as a result of it. Revised, his teammate. These two are on one right now.
Yep, in the distance, you have, I think, Epicwell and Reet battling it out against another team over here. Might be Noah plays and replays. Only who knows here at Mega City. Another solo kind of running around in the middle. That's the player who just recently lost his teammate. And that's what makes it kind of easy here. If you know the terrain, you know how to traverse through Mega City. If you lose a teammate, that is going to be replays. It's easy to kind of have your opponents lose track of you with the zip lines, with the kinetic blades, the amount of buildings, the hiding spots that go around. So it's almost not even worth for Epicwell and Reet to kind of chase him down at this point in time.
Yeah, and especially with how their games have been going, it might not just be the best idea at all, right? These guys have had their fair share of struggles. I'm not too sure where they're sitting in the standings now. Let me try and find them out, scout them out. They're currently sitting 34th in the leaderboard. So, yeah, not what you would expect from the premier team from NA West.
New environment, though. Not only speaking of zero builds, but kind of moving over. Centralize themselves, kind of match that North American region this season. Brackley's going to go down, so one of our top competitors is immediately out of the game. Source gets knocked trying to kinetic blade to safety. That's Fluger and Opt on the other side, and from spawn fight to spawn fight, they're immediately taking it to their opponents. You got to imagine where Tavern and Justice are positioned at as well. This is one of their landing spots. Pink's going to go down to the feed to Hellfire. So much action breaking down. We're not even at the first closed zone yet.
Yeah, Fluger and Opt, again, showing us why I was bigging them up at Naughty Nets. They do seem to be quite successful. They're very familiar with the spot, clearly. Source was no match there, especially for the heavy sniper. Malabuka down in the feed as well, and so Hellfire picks up both of those. And that's actually very interesting, right? Pink and Malabuka haven't really struggled much in that off-spawn area. Pink obviously being very familiar, landing there in duos most of the time. Well, Hellfire and Refscod rolled through and picked up two nicer limbs, and now they control one of the best spots on the map. This hill here gives you so many lines of sight on all the players in the bottom right of the map.
And if it weren't for those trees, actually, that'd be a great spot to kind of spot everybody out from so many different angles, even though it's not necessarily the best position they want to be. In the feed, we saw Muzz moments ago. Got a knock on at least one player here in this direction. We're trying to look. What did he see there? That's Muzz and his godlike aim being put to use. Suki and Lane, we've seen them chase down players left, right, and center in our last heat of the day yesterday to qualify up until this point. Trying to catch a player on the tail end. Some damage is better than none. Muzz finding that second one onto Accept as well. So Steamy Springs, a little bit southern from where the zone is at, but for Suki and Lane, who technically land on those kinetic blades, is going to waste no time trying to get to zone.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too difficult for them. And it doesn't seem like there's a lot of players in this general area anyway. As long as they can avoid Muzz, we know how many shots Muzz can hit.
Oh, what?
Oh, Bully goes down. Muzz? Oh, Muzz?
Oh, that was Queasy. That was Queasy who got the knock on the Bully. Him and Vino closing the distance. And this is a team that I feel like has what it takes to drop a good number of eliminations in this game, not gas themselves out, try to move up the leaderboards. Because honestly, I was expecting a little bit more coming to them, just like Epicwell and Reet. Queasy and Vino a little bit farther down the leaderboards that we would hope. Currently sitting in 31st place, 105 points. But it's a little bit of a living leaderboard as they pick up eliminations throughout the course of the game. They got their eyes set on Lame and Suki. They already got the damage there, so they're trying to go ahead and cover the distance with those kinetic blades, clean this one up, but Lame and Suki timing their charges with the kinetic blades quite nicely for now. Lame's going to go outside of the zone. Suki's going to go another direction. This is their chance to try to live, but Suki immediately gets beamed right out of the sky by Queasy and Vino. That's just the balance. That's the misstep, and why you got to time your kinetic blade charges perfectly. Oh.
And the good thing about where they're fighting here now, way deep into the storm, is that they don't have to be as worried about like third-party potential, right? There's not going to really be many players where they were. You still need to be somewhat wary, because you never know. But it just gives them that space to really take that fight and be aggressive the way they want to be. And an aggressive Vino is a very, very scary sight for anybody that stands in his way. We can see our first place team fighting. And fighting successfully. Nicely done.
One of those situations where Jack and Ron Twinkies got a good amount of damage on the Agers. They do what everybody else would do in that situation. Try to Kinetic Blade and finish that one off, but you have two of the most dangerous players in all of Fortnite, Kanata and Agers. They immediately turn, burn, take them both down. Queasy and Vino keep their show on the road, get their third elimination here, trying to make up for lost time. That's 15 points so far here in the early game of game number 4, where they're trying to catch up on that leaderboard. And honestly, with them kind of staggering themselves outside of zone, this might be a great scenario as long as anybody or nobody tries to gatekeep them on the outside.
Relying on people not gatekeeping might be a
mistake.
Yeah, could be a big mistake. Seti is unfortunately down. And I feel like it's been a rocky past couple games for these two. We obviously saw Cammy try and do his best as a solo in one of the games where he was third place. Couldn't quite salvage second or first. Even with all his best efforts. Jathan Yomzo. Also not having the best of tournaments right now. I think they were like second last. I think they were like 49th or something. Coming into this game.
Then, I think. Oh, no, never mind. You were right.
No, I mean, no, yeah. Like, I mean, yeah, when I said they were 49th, I mean, like now. Like, they are still 49th, is what I meant by that.
I went looking, thinking they maybe popped up the leaderboards, but that's the struggle. That's the off-spawn battle, you know, and I was watching Boob's stream. He was kind of, like, prefacing it, Mappy and Fanajin kind of landing on that POI, or that split drop, I should say. They have so much familiarity. So a team like Jathan Yamzo, who are coming together specifically for this event, who don't have the same type of familiarity, are just kind of getting beat off drop. And it almost makes me ask the question, you know, how did they even survive? Did they switch it up? Not necessarily in a negative, but I just want to know what changes they made overall to have a much better showing here in our 4th game.
Whatever it is, hopefully they can do more of it, right?
Yeah.
Yomzo and Jay, 2 very talented players who we all want to see consistently in these games. Jay, another one of those players who certainly specializes in zero build, it seems. So Jace, Anon, here in the zone, not deep in the zone, but you need to stay covered. And the shield bubble's going to be popped, and rightfully so. Vino is causing some issues for them.
This is just a very, very terrible position to be in for Jason and Anon against 2 of the powerhouse teams from EU. Robob on one side, along with Wax, Squeezy, and Vino on the other side. Kind of forced to be that meat in the middle. How are you going to survive? Only time will tell, but they're actually doing a good job on the defensive end. But I might have spoke too soon. Every sniper coming in. Shots from all directions. Robob even lending that helping hand to get 1 or 2 eliminations, but they each go their separate ways. 5 points for each of the respective teams. And then you could see in the mini-map, Robob and Wax kind of looking, do we go for loot? Do we not go for loot? Queasy and Vino, they've already abandoned the idea. And I like this. They're choosing not to get greedy in this situation because they don't want to let it all go down, end up in a bad position in 37th place.
I feel like after you bigged up OCE, like you've just cursed all of their teams. Jason ain't on there. It was, they ran out of shield bubbles though, right? As soon as they run out of shield bubbles, they couldn't place it, and then they're just getting attacked from all different sides, right? You can't really protect yourself that way. Mpen and D-Roller have no clue that Pamstu and Thatch are here waiting for them. And unfortunately, they won't have much of a rebuttal. Mpen knocks pretty instantly, and D-Roller just going to have to scurry away, but it doesn't seem like they're going to give him much room to do so. They have their kinetic blades, and they will pick him up.
That's a big find. That's a big find because I think D-Roll and M-Pen had vault loot. I see a legendary slurp juice. Possibly saw a mythic, if anything, maybe a legendary from a weapons cache. Something. They definitely had much better loot than Pamso and Fatch. Winning that one definitely bolster their arsenal. Pack a punch when push comes to shove. And I see in the feed, Walks went down. Vino even getting one. Muzz getting one. Dubs except getting cleaned up altogether. So that's 10 more points for Queasy and Vino.
Wow. That's the kind of game they need to have, right?
Yep.
They've started off the competition somewhat slow, especially by their standards. They came into this game around 30th place, 32nd. So they do need to start picking things up. The problem is we've seen them in previous games looking good, looking strong in decent positions, Jacob, but then, bam, that third party comes in.
Everybody kind of stacked over here towards the Citadel. There's actually plenty of room over at the Citadel for a lot of players to kind of position themselves. You got Mega over at the highest of high grounds, Fluger and Op somewhere in the middle, Blake and Bizzle probably on another layer. Everybody really just trying to coexist. And then those are just the players that we saw, because if you look at your mini-map, there's so many other Ts in this general direction as Pamso and Fatch get tagged up in the distance, still trying to figure out their escape plan. Luckily for them, they at least have some chug splashes, something to work with in the situation, but they're going to go ahead and just switch seats right there in the driver's seat, pop the legendary slurp juice, and try to continue in a much safer rotation and get to zone.
Yeah, they have options in terms of where they can go out. Obviously, the vehicle definitely gives them that. And I think moving further towards the west will probably be the play. Upton Fluger here at the Citadel. The loot's looking pretty decent.
The Citadel kind of, even though I talked about there's so much like terrain, so much area, different elevations for people to kind of coexist and survive, it's also very, very scary to kind of just maneuver around without really knowing what else is there. There's so many close quarters. You can hide behind any one of those corners and kind of pop out at a moment's notice. Hopefully Muzz has some sort of heals right now. He's not looking necessarily the best for Bully, even if he does make it outside of the zone. But they pop some great shots on the Venji and quickly take him down. And they get granted that flopper. That was much needed. That was kind of what I was hinting at.
I just find it hilarious how he just got caught mid-animation, right? It's like he's in the katana animation. He's about to go. Oop. No.
Look at him.
Cut short.
That? Oh, that's the vault. Interesting that they can choose not to go for the vault at all. Weapons cache or vault? I don't know.
Both.
It's true. They could definitely go back and get both. So, if you guys don't know, the weapons cache gets spotted up by 2 different teams for every single one. So even though they're going to claim it for now and begin to try to capture it, one other team, probably the ones close by in the lobby, I've just been notified that somebody's trying to capture it, and you got to make sure you go quick, and that's how you get the best rarity. The longer you take, the less likely you're able to get the good loot. But no matter what, it'll always drop some slurp juices. So if you're already stacked up, it's just enough to get something extra. As far as in Baka, this is a team honestly had high hopes for, landing towards the north portion of the map, almost uncontested. They do get a truck for rotation if they don't get the kinetic blades, but so far I don't think it's been their best showing. Sitting in 15th place currently, but there's more than enough. I talked about how close the leaderboard is. If they can have a big game here and continue that to end the day, they can earn themselves a top 10 spot for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I think when we've seen what's worked for teams, although we are constantly highlighting the teams, third party and picking up big eliminations and whatnot, it wasn't too long ago where we were watching Kami and Seti in 3rd place and they only had like 2 eliminations the whole game up to that point, right? So if you play your cards right, pick the right positions, you can definitely start to rack up a bunch of placement points, which are still incredibly valuable.
Or Quanti was, but he got taken down by Acorn somewhere. Tax and Moo, an interesting team and an interesting combination so far. Failing decently well. You see Jaith pick up 2. Trashy and Pump go down. Savage is going to take down 1. Acorn's going to finish off the other one. Everybody kind of in close proximity from now to the zone are the ones primarily battling it out, and you can kind of add in those third parties to clean it up. And there goes 2 of the fights that we just saw in the feed, kind of right next to each other in their respective shield bubbles. You take it hard for Savage and Acorn.
My fear is always when the shield bubbles expire, when they just turn into all-out warfare between these teams.
Most occasions, I got to agree with you as Bully. Got to imagine Muzz has the heals, 4 different shield bubbles on the back of Bully, making sure that they don't run out of said shield bubbles. One begins to expire. Shots coming in from their left. Immediately out goes another shield bubble. And it was right. It was Muzz carrying the 2 different legendary slurp juices. Not much to really work with here. So
Yeah, I'm
The team
glad
was
they
able to-
they did that.
Yeah, if the team is able to kind of put some damage on, I would think like kind of warning for Muzz and Bully, making even though they have the shield bubbles, they might need a refresh. Ooh.
Oh dear. Another game where Epico isn't looking too hot.
No strange thing there. Opting to take the legendary Maven. Even our traditional BR mode, Epico is one of the few professional players I've seen kind of not only take the Maven, kind of utilize it, making it look like one of the go-to weapons in a world full of Havocs. The shots go down underneath the bridge. Robob goes down. Seti goes down. Cammy goes down. Wox looking like he got himself a new truck and a new chance at life. He immediately tries to abandon Robob. And those are the plays that you have to make. Even though we're fighting for Gamers 8, the land of the heroes, sometimes you can't play a hero in these situations. You have to go on as a solo.
All these players getting swept under the bridge. And it's not done yet. Acorn is right on the other side of this wall, but I don't think Reciprocal realizes. I don't see how he would. Acorn just got stuck there. Oh man, that's hilarious. Does he know he's there? Does he know? I don't think he does.
I want to say no, as long as Acorn doesn't move to try to get out of the wall. Acorn probably hears them on the other side jumping around. Look at him just crouching.
But I don't think they
you
know.
can't, yeah, you can't hear the spread crouch.
You can't.
As long as he doesn't try to take a step or a hop, his revives or reciprocal. End up with their focus being distracted on the Wox, who gets taken out flying through the sky. They're trying to get any bit of heals left by that weapons cache, but they go down altogether. Look at Acorn. He's probably still there just waiting, trying to figure out how he's going to get out finally.
They had a free 5 points there, and they had no clue. No clue at all.
Ooh. Typical goes down. Freak gets tagged up. It's all up to Epic. Well, all he has is a med kit. Interesting to see him try. I was about to say, I would expect him to get, the passenger seat and try to pop the med kit.
Look, they ain't going on without a fight. Like, they're not looking too strong right now, overall. And their position in this game is certainly not a favorable one, right? Read down, Epic go very much low on everything. But 4 eliminations in this game isn't too bad. Pablo and Bevies, in the midst of a fight, they've set up the perfect trap. They just gotta look down and Tax and Moo will be taken out, but they walk into a trap of their own. Bevies has to get out, but he can't escape. It's Bofink, it's Guden who pick up those limbs.
That shield bubble is almost placed perfectly, but we see who is brave enough to fight for those pulse rifles. It's going to be Bofink and Guden, immediately trying to put it to use. The great thing about these pulse rifles, too, is they just melt the builds. They melt the cars. They melt anything in their path for the most part. So it's going to be hard to hide behind, as Baka and Pars probably have some of the highest elevation in the lobby so far. Mega and Knife are entering into a building, but from the attic. There goes Vortex shooting down from above. He chases them around to clean that one up. In the feed, you see Kanata getting very, very busy as well. Vortex is right next to Hellfire and Revscar. The next fight is going to begin. 2v1. Is he going to get that same result? No! His luck has definitely run out as Hellfire and Revscar get their 4th elimination of the game.
I don't even know if I could call it luck. When you're in a fight against Hellfire and Refsguard in the form they've been in this weekend, it's going to take a lot of luck to even stand any sort of a chance against them. Thatch will run out of luck himself. That's Kanata in ages. That he runs into 7 limbs so far, Jacob. This is ridiculous. Yeah.
They're already in first place. And if they continue on this trend, they're going to build themselves a little bit of lead in that first place position, but being able to close it out is going to be the name of the game. And in this 8th and final zone, picking and choosing when you fight your fight is going to be so important. Muzz with no heals. You got to imagine Bully the same, because Muzz was the one carrying them moments ago. Trying to use the shield bubble. Use this moment to try to recharge their kinetic blade. Bully's going to end up 1v1. 8 elimination is going to be cleaned up, but Muzz is going to be left by himself. His kinetic blade charges are refilling. That's Fluger and Opt on the other side. Triprin's knocked down as well. Scram found his way to safety over at the top, but very close by Hellfire and Refsguard as well. Kanata and Agers, the only team towards the outside that seems as safe as can be, but that's only a barrage. They still have to travel the zone.
They have decent distance to travel, fortunately for them. They also have kinetic blades, which will allow them to get there sooner. Landing in a place of a tree, but not much cover other than that. Hellfire trades. I'm not sure Scram will be happy about that trade.
Yeah, Fluger and Opt still have some distance to cover. They're not fully in zone just yet. Instead of just going forward, they're trying to go up over. But somebody's hiding in the bush right behind him. That's Muzz. He's able to get the knock onto one, but not before doing some damage, getting the knock onto Opt. Fluger's there. He quickly tries to run into the edge of zone, get this res, but do they have heals? Otherwise, Opt might just have to be a sacrifice for Fluger later in the game.
That is rough. Muzz, the thorn in their side, almost costing them the whole game, and it might be the difference maker because we still have a healthy Kanada and Ages in this game. They don't have the height position. That is going to be easinesses. He doesn't have great HP. We'll pick up Opto, who's already low. Fluger's coming all the way up. Fluger, sorry. And he will drop all the way back down. The really nice shots there from Easiness. But unfortunately, you've got to think he's no match for Kanada and Ages because they will come up. When they come up, there's only one place they go, and that's right back down. And a big shot to win the game. And that's the first place team, Jacob, coming out here and winning game 4.
That's 9 eliminations or so, and that's 60 points for that victory royale. Talk about a chance to kind of spread your lead out even more, and in one of the closest lobbies I've seen in quite a while. That is the 4th game, done and over with, but you got to give Easiness so much credit there, getting the credit for at least one of those eliminations before Kanata and Age just stole away the other one, stole away the placement points as well. That little bit of difference, you got to give Muzz a little bit of credit, kind of make it something out of nothing, even though he didn't credit for the actual elimination. He did so much damage for Fluger and Opt.
Yeah, I think for him to even have had the courage there, it was super impressive. But I think, you know, he made the right plays. He made the only plays he could have made, right? He was very low, didn't have anything he could do about it. And so just take the fights, right? And, you know, hit a couple shots, should be successful. Look, that game was very interesting. We didn't see as much of like the crazy third-party action we were seeing in some of the other games where it was like an endless chain. But we certainly did see still a bunch of third-party fights. We saw a bunch of 2v1s in this game. That was almost the theme of this game. If every game has its own story, a bunch of different 2v1 situations. Up there picking up one, and then Fluger came down. Fortunately, didn't quite get that one. He deserved it. Definitely did deserve it. And then Kanada's never going to miss that shot, is he?
Yeah, and one of the biggest switch up I've seen, I wouldn't say it was drastic by any means, but it's definitely enough, is you notice there was less third parties in this game than we've seen in the first 3 so far, which means players are adapting. They're learning. They're trying to perfect the timing that goes down to be able to not only third party and clean up those eliminations, but be able to get out before you then become that third party. But with 4 games down, 2 more to go, make sure you guys don't go anywhere, because on the other side of this break, we have game number 5. Welcome back once more to the finale of the DreamHack Open featuring Fortnite. 4 of the hottest games are done and over with 2 more to go, Levin. What do you make of all this action?
I think it's been crazy. I think from the fights we've seen all across the map, it has been a crazy competition, but very fitting of the zero build mode, right? So much going on all over the place, and it's definitely impacted the standings that way.
Yeah, going into that 4th game, we saw Kanata and Agers narrowly in first place, but we saw them drop a great number of eliminations. I do believe it was 9 overall. Take the game, 105 points scored in that last game, and built themselves a 46-point lead going into our final 2 games.
Yeah, this is exactly what you want to see from a team that's doing well. To come out, right, you're already in first place, come out and win a game. Impose yourself on everybody in the competition. And if I know Kanada well, I know he will be letting everybody in his little area of DreamHack San Diego know just how good he believes he is. That is definitely his thing. So a really, really nice performance from these guys. Look, you know, you come out here, right, and you get a third place 5 elim game, a 7th place 4 elim game, and then a first place 9 elim game. Like, these guys, they just keep the good vibes rolling.
Yeah, and honestly, shout out to Dignitas out there. I can only imagine what kind of content they're cooking up in the kitchen right now if Kanata can somehow pull out a victory. So you talk about the noise he can make in the scene. I can't wait to see it in content form. But Fluger and Ops showing up big. But our 10th place right now is housed by Kika and GV, 189 points, which honestly, it's nothing. 16th, 171. There is absolutely nothing stopping from a lot of these competitors from stealing that one away with 2 games left.
Look, we're going into the penultimate game. If you want any of the teams here on the standings, you have to cook up a master plan. You have to cook up something that you've never cooked in your life, because you cannot afford to let these opportunities slip away from you, especially if it's some of the EU teams here. Look, if you're Mappy for Asian, if you are Mr. Savage, or Mr. Savage probably don't mind too much, but if you're one of the teams that's come a long, long way, if you're one of the OCE teams, you have to put everything on your line, Percy, because it is a big investment for you to make the trip out here to San Diego. You know, you have to be willing to put your all on the line.
Yeah, and honestly, if you continue to look down that leaderboard, with 10th place currently being at 189 points, we've just seen Kanata and Ager score 105 points in that last game. Where would you kind of cut off that top 10 threshold? I'm kind of looking like 132 at 32nd. I think that's still possible. Cease and Nebs at 37th, 105 points. I still think even that could be possible, but it's going to take miracles and pop-offs for that one.
You just gotta have 2 big games. 2 big games, and it all starts here in game number 5. The players are ready to go, Jacob. I'm very excited. I'm very excited because by the end of these 2 games, Jacob, we will have 10 players ready for Gamers 8. Off spawn, we already got fights happening. Carity G falls.
And that's 5th place. Vortex and Axe Force. You're seeing how they're getting these early game eliminations. I think they won every single one of these fights except for maybe one, to where I think they either lost it or maybe disengaged. I got to go back and check, but Venji's taking out Guden. Okay, so it was a loss overall. And you can kind of see what the strategy actually is. It almost seems like a 50-50 for the top of the castle building, if they can even get a weapon there. Turtle Tavern and Justice towards the north side, or I should say the south side of Naughty Nets. Fluger and Opt going to be on the southern side, so kind of giving up that guaranteed kinetic blade.
Fluger, Opt. Here at Naughty Nets, where they've had a bunch of success. I see a llama dancing around there in the distance. Like, it's been ages since we've seen those, right? Especially if you're not an avid zero build player.
Might be worth to let it expire too. You get the Rift. Yeah.
Revised and Reciprocal, another team that's been mighty impressive. They call him Mr. Savage. Ooh, okay. Look, Okus and Crackley, they don't want to fight, Jacob. Okus and Crackley, remember, they won a game earlier today. They're actually the only team to win a game and not be in the top 10, I believe.
Yeah, which is tough, because at one point or another, they were one of the top 2 teams in the game, along with Agers and Kanata. But like I said, to kind of start the show, it's not always how you start a tournament, it's how you finish. And you have to be able to finish just as strong as you started in a lot of these scenarios. Is Mr. Savage. And Acorn is going to go ahead and scare them off, push them out of the POI of Anvil Square. And there's so much loot left over for them to claim as their own. But the main thing they're going to be looking for is a kinetic blade over on this side of the map. But honestly, if they figure out a way, if they don't get a kinetic blade here and they figure out a way to travel a little bit more north to the east, there's actually an NPC over towards the outskirts of Citadel where they can purchase a kinetic blade.
Yeah, if you got the gold for it, why not? Especially if you desperately need one. Doesn't feel like there's a lack of them though on the map. I feel like every team we bounce around has a kinetic blade for the most part. Especially if they are a team that lands in this southeastern part of the map.
Seemingly playing a little bit slower here in their 5th game. Honestly, realizing what that stake over $200 or about $250,000 of prize pool split between our top 50 teams, a spot at Gamers 8, valuable practice. So even if you might not be in contention of a top 10 spot, and you might not be in contention of getting first place, obviously, you're still fighting for a good amount of money, a good amount of practice before DreamHack Dallas, right around the corner. So it's just every single second can't be wasted in these scenarios.
You have to make it count. Vortexes and Axe Force have been very impressive today, but they can't afford any slip-ups. Need to stay consistent in these last couple of games. Of course, they won Breakwater bait off spawn in this game. They need to hold on to their position in the top 10.
They're probably going to be one of the teams that purchased that kinetic blade. You see, they didn't have one in either one of those players' inventories, but the zone is forcing them to go in that rotation either way, and that's why like Zero Builds learning the NPCs is a huge part of the game that you don't typically see in the regular BR mode, where a lot of these players are actually playing as Prospering America, taken down by EU's Tripper and Scram. Man City's very own, I should say. Are you a fan of Man City?
Jacob,
I know the answer.
we
to
are
that.
we are friends.
I wanted to press your buttons just a little bit.
You keep asking me questions like that, Jacob. We won't be friends much longer. I'll tell you that much. Yeah.
I got the reaction I wanted.
Only thing I like about Man City is Trippin and Scram happen to play for them. That's the only thing I like about them. Nevertheless, it's not looking good because Scram goes down. And what I was going to say about Trippin and Scram is that they were mounting a cheeky little comeback. Like they were in 15th place coming into this game. Things were looking rather decent. And if they had had a decent game this time round, like things would have definitely been possible. But this now just makes things all the more harder.
Yeah, it puts so much pressure on them and in their final game to perform above expectations, because you mentioned 15th place. Now, obviously, very, very early on in this game, so they're just going to continue to fall down the leaderboard. So they just kind of need to figure out how they're going to overperform. But you see in the feed, Jadson takes down Kanata. The question is going to be asked, where is Agers? Is he still alive? And if not, how far will that 46-point lead in first place go?
Oh, dear. The line of sights all blocked off by the trees for Okis, and they will miss the shots of the heavy sniper as well, unfortunately. That could have been our clip of the day if they were able to connect with something. It won't quite play out like that.
We talked about, Crackly and Okis kind of falling down the leaderboards in a way we didn't expect. No time like the present, though, to kind of make up for those mistakes. Have a good game here. You instantly kind of bolster yourself back up. They're just 11 points shy of getting into that top 10 and earning themselves a ticket directly to Gamers 8. And for Jadson and Jackson, they have a little bit more work to do. But like I said, for majority of the lobby, it is definitely still possible. You just need to kind of play into the situation. 10 elims. I know that sounds kind of like a huge effort, in which it is. I don't want to make it sound easy, but it definitely is possible if you're able to catch multiple players off guard and your timing is perfect with third parties. And I mean perfect with capital P.
All caps may be needed for perfect. Cease and Nebs.
Oh, sorry. I thought it was bounced back at him for a second.
Imagine the scenes. That would have been the perfect timing to just swap it over to him as well. Because he completely bottles it.
Oh man, it's scaring me a little bit. I like what Nebs is doing though, using the heavy snipes to try to break away some of the covers. They know they're at least triple contested right out of the gates. They know the vault isn't open yet. This is going to be at the edge of zone. And depending on who has the key, honestly, you're just playing a game of hide and seek at this point.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people here. And yeah, why everybody wants some of that vault loot. It will be Ceases and Nebs is dope.
Take all the gold.
That's what they're doing, it looks like. Nebs was
I always
farming
take the
away.
gold. I'm the goblin. I take all the gold in the vault.
I'm a bit lazy, so I don't.
You wait for me to break it so you can take it.
Yes, actually. That is much more my style.
Oh, man. Robot and Walks have a little bit of a differing style here outside of zone. Using those eggs to not only regain some shields, but gain that low gravity effect. And even though Walks doesn't have the kinetic blade, you can kind of combine those two. You can kind of cover so much distance in the blink of an eye, but he's getting tagged up from behind. Quickly throws down his last shield bubble to try to create some sort of defenses, but again, he's in zone. Damage is being taken. He's being forced farther and farther away by Seti and Cammy.
Yeah, I'm saying, Cammy, they need to start finding some rhythm and doing a better job of getting some of these limbs earlier on. It really does set them up later on in the game. Sitting Cammy both now using those heavy snipers to clear out a path to just take shots of the red eye hit. And they still know that is one of the players beneath them as well somewhere, so Seti will just scout it out just to be sure, just to be careful.
This is if they could find Walks, which I'm not sure they're going to find Walks, they find Robab. That would be the player to kind of go after because he doesn't have the kinetic blade, but who am I to say anything? The FNCS Invitational Champions finding that elimination on Robab. A chug gun as well to kind of get their HP and shields back up for staying in the storm for so long. Kika and Jivy, and they've been in close range combat against D-Roller and Npen, who got here traveling in their car. So that's going to be Npen's escape tool as well. Kika's going to see that one and kind of change up his focus just a little bit.
Yeah, sort of forced to, right? Couldn't engage in the fight in the way they wanted to at first. But they do have a car for their own, so maybe a little high-speed chase will ensue rather soon. You're on an M-Pen. They don't want to chase, they just want to fight up front. Waiting up above on top of this glacier here.
Smart. Smart. It wouldn't even know so much about the damage they were potentially taking as about preserving their car. At about like 200 HP, Npen had the heavy. D-Roller was tagging it up with the red eye. Definitely would have been demolished. HP would have been taken away, and they would have been caught out in the open. So great heads-up play. Really thinking out, I wouldn't say outside of the box because it's become more and more common here on Zero builds as we jump on board Queasy and Vino at their same landing spot above Noah and Replays, who had to travel a little bit from Mega City just to get here.
Yeah, but when it comes to Kenjutsu, there is nobody better than these two. Very comfortable, very familiar with the spot. Now on the move away from the spot, and that leaves Replays and Noah just to get the spare loot. There's always a bunch of spare loot, some spare katanas in Kenjutsu as well. You often see teams go way deep into the storm to get it, even when it's not in zone. Easy and Veno can't possibly loot it all, so I'm sure there'll be something there for them to find. Jivy and Kika, though, here at Slappy Shores, and they're trying to be quiet because our players in this building, Frets and Auntie, are the ones up above, and I'm sure they would have heard them as well in the building somewhere, so they're also playing very patiently.
If they figure out or position themselves right above, they can try to heavy snipe and hit a little bit of a surprise attack. You saw the heisted accelerant exotic Maven kind of ramp up as you begin to kind of fire off and hit those shots. Damage boost, speed boost, siphon, everything that you need and more. You saw Queasy and Vino kind of move up into this location. Noah plays and Replays were kind of rotating parallel one another, and you kind of see at the very bottom of the mini-map, kind of, you prefaced this already, there's so much loot over towards Kenjutsu Crossing, and then those kinetic blades, they're just trying to scavenge what's left.
Yeah, here at the gas station, they literally can completely block their path to zone, right? So
yeah,
if they're patient, they should reap the rewards. Vino's not so patient though. He's gonna start breaking the wall. Wants to force the issue a bit, and understandably.
Hollow chest. What do you think you got? What do you think you got? Okay. An epic red eye.
Not bad. All doing wonders.
Yep. More damage in the distance. He was just trying to bait out some shots, shooting the cover. I like how Noah and Replay is just kind of patient. They didn't necessarily take the bait in that situation, but it just shows, or it seems like Queasy and Vino know somebody is there. They don't know exactly where the players are located, but they know somebody is following hot on their heels. See Sinebs trying to make a cheeky play over here towards Slappy Shorts, hide in the buildings, wait for somebody kind of cross their path. They kind of claim the loot over towards Brittle Bastion inside of that vault. So you see two different Mythic Havocs. Interesting thing, though, is Nebs and him particularly not choosing to get the Kinetic Blades. They're just going for shield bubbles and playing a little bit more safe than everybody else.
Ooh. Bit of damage taken there, but not going to cause too much of an issue for Trashy and Pump.
Trying to look at the leaderboards. Remembered now for a moment that Kanata and Agers went down very, very early on in this game. About like 45th place or so, maybe even 44th. Was definitely open for the taking for players like Fluger and Opt, Revised, Reciprocal, Vortexers, Act Force in 5th place, and Muzz and Bully. I think right there are some of our top contenders that have a chance here with a big game to kind of overtake that first place spot. Pink's going to take down 2. Alex and Sons are going to get sent back to the lobby here in our 5th game, and kind of leads them thinking here, trying to formulate some sort of strategy or blueprint going to our 6th and final game.
Yeah, if you have gone down already in this game, you're going to have a long wait till that final one, right? You got to sit there and ponder on everything that's gone wrong, everything that can go right in your last chance. For the ones that are still in this lobby, though, you have to play the lobby. Can't afford to get in your own head too much about the next game to come. And Ibuka and Pink, they're doing a brilliant job so far of doing just that. A couple rough games, but bouncing back here in this lobby. 3 eliminations to their name. Here on the Pink Hill as well. And, you know, making use of it, right? I was calling it the best hill in the game earlier, and they've just been able to sit here in this area and pick up 3 elims. Not too shabby.
Yep. But I think around 30 points shy of getting into that top 10. And honestly, it sounds like a lot, but I don't want that 30 points to daunt you. It's 60 points for that VR, 5 points per elimination. So honestly, to cover that 30-point gap, you just need 6 eliminations throughout the course of this game. For them, might be a little bit easier than you expect. As Reciprocal and Revised, you see the Jelly Angler augment. They still have that key. And honestly, with the amount of heals there, combine that with the amount of heals in the vault, they can stay in the storm for quite a while before they have to go.
There's a lot of pressure on Axos and Vortexes.
Yeah, no,
because when you start the day well, and you're sitting comfortable, and now the qualification spot's on the line, you have to have good games. Like, you got to deliver. And they've not quite been able to do what they were doing so well in those earlier games, right? In terms of these crazy third parties where they're just timing it perfectly, bouncing, tiptoeing around the shield bubbles and picking people off efficiently. It's not quite been as smooth. I was tripping as Scamasaur, right? Which is nice. I think Trippin was able to stay alive and get the reboot off. There is still hope for that team in this game on their journey for the ultimate comeback. Vino is going to quickly blade himself out of there with the katana.
Oh, wait a minute. Is this the first time we're seeing Surge here in our 5th game?
Yeah.
I didn't even expect to see Surge pop up. And in a moment like this, it just goes to show what is really on the line. Nobody really wanted to take the chances early on in this game. But look at Reet Epic Well, 1200 above the damage threshold. Everybody hovering over that vault here in Mega City. The elevation is so important. Surveying the field, even though they have so much distance to cover, they can at least spot everybody out as they make their rotations. Give them more time to work.
Wait, we actually got Storm Surge. Okay, this is crazy.
I thought he just blind fired that into the bush and hit the snipe.
That would have been nuts, but that's not what happened. The fight is breaking out, though, between these two. B-Roll and Empen, they have the upper hand because Jafe is down. Vino is the one that gets the credit for the finish there. And the Omzo now has to 1v2, but this is a very, very difficult thing to ask of anybody. Starts off with a shot there that won't do too much damage, and so just trying to run on out of there, and the blade will allow him to do just that.
Interesting to see D-Roller opt not pick up any variation of the shotgun that was kind of left behind. Dropping it over, making sure to drop the heavy. As this goes later into the game, the snipers have less and less of an importance. Shield levels just carry so much more value in your loadout than the heavy, as this does kind of converge all these players there. Top side of the zone is so stacked, and now we get to see our team handles being below on Surge in a zero builds lobby. But as I say that, they just laser their opponent into the distance. 199 above the threshold, at least a feeling of comfortability for now.
Well, that's how you deal with it, right? You hit the shots necessary, you deal the damage, you will get yourself above that threshold. Revised and reciprocal, a team that has been a consistent feature of these games, currently splintered apart. Reciprocal alive alone, it appears that way at least.
Going for the vault.
Ooh, tripping and scram gone down, and so even though they were able to get back in this game, taken out way early on here. This lobby is a very, very different beast to the ones we've seen before. Kika and Jivy now having their own set of problems. Jivy is down. Seti and Cammy go down at the hands of Acorn as well, so it's going down all over the gaff. That's the effects of Storm Surge on this lobby.
I like that. I like that play to disengage. Yamza was closing the distance. They get the elimination regardless. Couple blind shots with the heavy into the bush, just trying to double check if anybody's there. D-Roller still putting in work, able to find the elimination, proving that you don't necessarily need any variation of the shotgun in this game to really pack a punch. Yamza goes down finally, and Pen gonna be able to get that one up, but Walks actually goes down. Him and Robob need to figure out a way to survive. They're in the contention to still win this event.
It's definitely in the realms of possibility, right? The first place team went down, but Walks and Robob fall just as we start to hype up the potential for them to roll on through. That is just the nature of this competition. That is the nature of zero builds. Pilkey and easiness. Another game where easiness maybe will be able to show us what he can do. This time round, if Pilkey's up alive with him, and the potential for this duo is incredibly high. Malabuka picking up replays in the feed. Malabuka and Pink, I feel like every couple of seconds I look at the feed and they're just picking up in a limb. I wonder how many they have this game.
Yep, trying to make up for lost time.
They're going for another one.
I feel like you can read the scenario. Pink's end up under siege against Zuki's and Kinzo, using the tree. Throws him right at it. He's going to go down. I don't know how they got separated there, but that is just enough separation. Acorn takes down the FNCS Invitational Champions. The elimination feed is just lighting up at one point or another. We still had 44 players left alive. 25 teams. It's going down to 22. Still more than half of the points still left in the lobby. Acorn and Mr. Savage join everybody else back in the lobby, watching the rest of this one kind of unfold. Bizzle, Blake, one's going to go down. Blake trying to be the hero. He's going to get chopped and down to size. Trashy's going to go down as well. Kinzo's going to go down. Notch is going to go down. There is so much chaos going all around.
I can't keep track of it all, Jacob. I don't even know what's going on. I don't know who's gone down. I don't know who's taken out who. Everybody is falling. All these names in the feed, but the fights don't stop here. Fluger, he's getting in on the action now as well. It's Hellfire in his box. It's Hellfire in his face. In this bush.
That's huge.
Take them out. But no, Fluger goes down as well. It's all up to Opt. Will he be able to get the revive off in this push? He might just get it. I don't think they're getting pushed just yet. No, there's somebody right there. It's epic. Well, if he can take him out, though, that will be enough. And he does. A big shot from Opt there.
This is one of our second place, third place teams. Fluger, Opt, Vortexers, or Axe Force, they're the two teams waiting for that opportunity for everybody else to kind of get eliminated in the lobby where those placement points are really begin to set in. Quanti Threats looking on in the distance. They have 20 points straight off eliminations alone at this stage in the game. They got some distance to cover before they find themselves some comfortability. You best bet they have to have some sort of shield bubble on them. Otherwise, they have to be looking elsewhere. Vert gets taken down. Him and Quinn go back to the lobby. At least they got themselves a top 10 finish.
Yes, it's really nice. For Quanti and Threats, they move across the river unscathed. Nobody really sees them. Fluger and Opt are back up and alive, back up and active. 3 elims on this game so far, and now moving in. They're looking to add more to their tally. They've spotted out a player. But the Connect Blade means that they get out just in the nick of time. They see that player in the truck as well. We can see you. There's nothing in the glove box, mate. You got to get out of the whip. Threats and Quanti in this bush, though, are connecting with nice shots there. And even though Threats takes a bit of damage, Jacob, they are still up in this game.
Just kind of pass out. Cease at the top of the tree like a Christmas ornament. Fatch, the same thing. The two duos trying to take as much control of the low ground as possible, and you got to give it to Fluger and Op the best chances. 6 eliminations so far. Cease gets taken out of the tree into the truck, still trying to keep it going. Tax gets taken down by Quanti. Opt becomes an Uber driver. Cease is there as well. You can't really take him down, but Fluger is going to lend that helping hand, taking down Cease. 5 more points to them as this one comes down to the wire. Fatch gets spotted out in the tree. He almost gets taken down, forced to reposition as Threats and Quanti move closer and closer to Fluger and Opt.
Yeah, in this final showdown between these 3 teams, it's a 2 duos and a solo. And it looks like Quanti and Threats realize that they want to take him out, but the final fight will break loose. And it looks like he'll be Fluger and Opt to win the game. What a game it was for them as well. Jacob, we talked about how with Canada and Aegis going down, one of the top 5 teams needed to step up and try and take first place. And with that game, Fluger and Opt might just have done it.
Yeah, they look like surgeons out there. The way they dissected the lobby, third party after third party, taking advantage of the attempts. Their timing was absolutely impeccable for them to move in, get the eliminations, and quickly find some sort of safety right after those exchanges. Axe-Force and Vortexers, they were one of the other teams in the hunt. They found some eliminations to figure out a way to keep this one close. It was a 46-point lead for Canada and Aegis entering that game. Did Fluger and Op do enough to overtake first going into our last game?
Some of the shots they were hitting in this game were absolutely insane. You can see the final moments here as well as they jump on in. We talked about perfect timing. It showed us that right there. Really nicely done from that duo. Honestly, Jacob, I'm very impressed by that, right? We you know, to come into this competition with, you know, expectations on you, right? People looking at you, look, you guys are 0 build experts, you got to come in here, you got to show your thing, and then to just come out and do it, especially in one of the later games as well. That's clutch. Exactly. That's ice cold. Yeah,
finishing strong is just as important as having a good start to your game and everything else in between. You can only imagine right now what the leaderboard, because a lot of our competitors, man, they made it in towards the end game, specifically people that might have been on the bubble of top 10 as well. But before we go into our 6th game, before we show you guys the leaderboard, we got to take another quick break to make sure our calculations are correct. Welcome back for the last time to the DreamHack Open featuring Fortnite. We've seen 5 of the most intense games in our $250,000 final, where our top competitor is going to get $45,000. But more importantly, Levin, our top 10 teams are going to advance straight to Gamers 8, our $2 million in-person event. And that's exactly what this is all about.
There is so much on the line heading into this last game. The question coming into this was whether or not Fluger and Opt were able to take first place away from Ages and Canada, and in fact they did. And it wasn't just them to do it, Jacob. Quanti and Frets are currently sitting in second as well.
Yeah, and Fluger, you got to give them credit. They built themselves a pretty nice cushion as well in first place, and an even better cushion into that top 10. About 48 points ahead of Quanti and Threats in second place as we kind of move down that leaderboard. 100 points over 8th place. Baka and Pards uncontested towards the north side of the map. But that 10th place, the threshold as it stands, 235 points by Source and Notch.
That is exactly what everybody needs to keep their eyes on, right? 10th place. The top 10 teams are the ones who qualify for Gamers 8 Saudi in July. You have to be in the top 10 after the next game. And right now, it is Source and Nutch who sit there. If you're them and you see yourselves in 10th place, this might be the most nerve-wracking game of Zero Build Fortnite, or Fortnite in general, that they have ever played, because they have to hold on. They have to have a game good enough to get themselves back in that spot.
Yeah, they're going to end up in situations where typically, if you're not thinking about the leaderboard, you might try to pounce on elimination. You might try to take an advantage, but sitting literally mean in the center of that 10th place spot, right on the bubble, like you said, it's going to do mental things. There's so much money up for grabs. We talk about $250,000. First place getting the lion's share of $45,000. Everybody inside of the top 10 getting at least $6,000 to split between the two. There's such a huge amount of money. And honestly, if you win any of this money, Levin, you can kind of reinvest that if you think you're so good for Dallas as well, to kind of keep going, investing in yourself.
100%, right? And like, I bet you every single one of the players playing in this lobby will want to go to Dallas, regardless of how the outcome goes, right? Even if you do get top 10, you're going to want to go to Dallas and get more practice, right? Then you're going to want to go to DreamHack Summer in Sweden and get even more practice there as well. These players are hungry to make sure that they can be at their peak level when it comes time for Gamers 8. But look, I'm getting way too ahead of myself. Let's forget Gamers 8 right now. Let's focus on game number 6 of this competition. It's the only way you're going to get to Gamers 8 in the first place. And so many of our teams have postured themselves and put themselves in positions to be able to have a game that really sneaks them in there.
Yeah, and we saw last game, Ages of Canada going down very, very early on. It kind of leads me, Fluger and Opt, over towards the Naughty Net side of the map. They're pretty contested. That's Justice and Tavern over on that side, even though they're kind of disengaging, or Fluger and Opt are kind of winning a lot of those exchanges. One misstep could cost you absolutely everything in terms of getting that first place. Quanti and Threats sitting in that same boat. And the eyes right now for me are on Ages and Canada. How do you make up for such a misstep in that 5th game?
You have to come back bigger and better than ever. You have to be at your peak performance. You have to be ready. You can't afford any slip-ups. You can't afford to go down early like they did. And you just got to play it a lot safer, right? Because where they currently sit in the standings, they aren't safe. They aren't guaranteed to stay in the top 10. The only team that maybe might have that luxury would be Fluger and Opt. And even they, I'm sure, will still be playing it very close to the chest, hoping that they can just have a good enough game to guarantee themselves in that top 10. Fluger and Opt, this is the biggest off-spawn fight here at Naughty. They've been so dominant here today, but none of that will matter if they go down too early. But Opt is already down. How has this happened? Not like this. Fluger has to do it all alone. Opt is no more. And Turtle Tavern and Justice might just have ruined these guys' whole trip to San Diego.
I'm just at a loss for words. Every single game except for maybe the first 1 or 2, Fluger and Opt were kind of splitting this drop. Not really taking on Tavern and Justice out the gates anymore. Something has changed up. Something has switched up overall. And the only guaranteed kinetic blade are in the hands of Tavern and Justice to easily close the gap and take down Fluger. This just really got interesting. This definitely got interesting for different occasions. The battle for first place and the battle for top 10.
Yeah, that is really, really interesting. And we will certainly be following that. Turtle Tavern and Justice have done a great job in this game here in game 6, it hasn't been the best of days off spawn for them at Naughty Nets, but it doesn't matter what happened before it. It's all about what's happening here and now, and those guys are doing a great job thus far. For Jace and Anon, another team that maybe hasn't quite had the day they would have wanted to. It's not been as smooth sailing, and it's not smooth sailing here in game number 6.
It was quick thinking for a moment, but maybe even a couple lack of thoughts, just quickly trying to get the res on. It actually is going to be finished off, but Queasy and Vino slowly but surely closing the gap. They get their guaranteed kinetic blades. Not going to waste any time doing just that. Anon versus Vino. A trade in damage. A bait and switch coming through as Vino quickly tries to get on out, but third parties coming in from Mega City. Either Epic Whale and Reed or Noah and Reed plays trying to bracket bust, but Vino's getting dropped down low. We saw the trade in shots early on, so it's really going to be up to Queasy to be the tip of the spear here.
Yeah, oh, wow. Vino heals. Queasy's gonna put in that work with this launcher. Nothing quite connecting, but anytime you see that thing being used, you know the potential is mad. Oh dear, Vino. Oh, sorry, Queasy might go down here. Wow. This is not what you wanted to see. This is the team that coming into this competition, everybody had them as the favorites, and how could you not? Queasy's been so dominant in zero build competitions. Vino's considered by many the best player in the world, by myself as well. And they won the first heat with ease. But here in the finals, nothing's been able to click into place. And speaking of things not clicking into place, Fluger, look at where he is. He's as far away from the island as you can possibly be. He's popping a shield bubble as well.
He's stuck out in the middle of nowhere. Can't go north, there's a team there. Can't really go south. Tavern and Justice are there, but did Tavern and Justice put their focus elsewhere, which probably would allow Fluger to kind of backtrack in that position. Jade's going to go down. 7 HP for Fluger. Still getting tagged up in the distance, and Fluger goes down along with Opt. First place is now open for the taking.
First place is now open, wide open. Anybody can take it. But the question Fluger and Opt will have is, are we going to hold on to the top 10? I mean, in most cases, in most tournaments, you'd certainly think yes. But with the nature of this point format and the way we've seen switch-ups in the standings, you can never guarantee it. I'd like to think they'll be able to hold on to top 10. If they aren't able to hold on to top 10, Jacob, it would probably be the most heartbreaking thing I've ever seen for a team in any tournament in Fortnite. Like, it would be tragic. So they will be watching. Fingers crossed.
Trying to look at the situation right now on the leaderboard. Quanti and Threats, Vortexers and Ag Force, Agers and Kanata. All those teams over 300 points and the closest to contend for that first place spot. But it's about like 50 or so points out of reach. So honestly, Levin, you either need a good number of eliminations and a high placing game, or you just simply need to win the game overall and kind of match the scores of your other competitors that are still in that race. So it's still anybody's for the taking in terms of top 10. We saw Source and Notch going into this game. They were the ones that were housing it. Just by a few points of differential. Not even a full elim would move that team in 11th place up into 10th.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very tough. You've got to make the difference in your points. And these lobbies, I said this lobby, this lobby just gets infinitely harder as time passes by. Jivy gets taken now. You can't keep up in this one anymore. That'll be the end of his run. But we saw last game, Jacob, there's storm surge in these lobbies now. So many players alive. The lobby has to take action into its own hands.
And you got to wonder, like, how many of these players actually practice zero builds on the daily, let alone zero builds that end up, you know, stacked enough lobbies to activate Storm Surge. Bolts and Vortex trying to make a run here, trying to see where they're at on the leaderboard. Is it going to be possible? Right now, they're in 40th place, 116 points. So in terms of getting into the top 10, honestly, Levin, the only way Volts and Vortex are going to get into that top 10 are probably like 15 plus eliminations.
Yeah, it's going to have to be like the craziest game we've seen today from anybody. Never want to rule things out. Both and Guden pick up 2 here. That's his Lucky and Degen, who will be ending their run here in San Diego.
Even though I'm talking about like a 15 elim win, at least it goes to show that even though it's probably one of the harder things you're going to do in a lobby to stack, at least there's some sense of control over their destiny as they continue to try to hunt down this team, which is on the outside of zone. And I like the play here. They just need to just do it a little bit more quicker with a little bit more haste here as Volk's just trying to get that additional angle. 6 chug splashes, so taking damage from the zone is not going to be too much of a worry. For me, the only real worry for them is how separated they are from one another. Well, no more worry.
Yeah, especially when Big Volks can handle it there with the combat shotgun.
All right, I said 15 elims. Well, they got 6 left, 9 more to go. They're making it actually look more achievable than I thought at this stage in the game.
If they are able to do this, it would be one of the craziest feats we've seen in competitive zero build history. Blur and Forik, their focus right now on acquiring the vault, which is certainly possible once you take out these bots.
Trying to see where everybody's positioned at for Blur and Thoric. 154 points kind of going into this game. They too are in that same situation. You know, 15 elims, something like that. With a victory royale. While your competitors are not having the best games either. Not too much control over your destiny, but at least it's something, maybe a finger or two, kind of gripping onto the rails for dear life. Quantium threats. On the other side of that boat, on the other side of the story, get a little bit more positive in contention of getting that first place. Going into this one in second place, and with Fluger and Opt going down, it is definitely within grasp.
These guys have had a sneaky sort of competition where they've just sort of been there and thereabouts all day long. And in these final couple of games, they really just sort of locked in and made sure they had these solid performances that, again, have put them in a very, very strong spot to be able to qualify and like you said, take first place. 2 second place finishes for them today. Both games were second place, 8 elimination games. Maybe this will finally be the one where they get their victory royale. What a way to crown off a win that would be.
The other team, like a 3-headed dragon, a 3-horse race. X-Force and Vortex are just trying to get a nice center position in zone. Split between the 2 bushes here and take advantage of zero builds. Egg launcher into the distance. Gonna take down Bully and Muzz's bush, even though it doesn't really do any damage. Forces them to kind of relocate here into our Steamy Springs, into the hands of Pump and Trashy. Luckily for them, they instantly spot him out, so no sneak attacks for you. So instead, he wins the race for Pump and Trashy, it seems like. Currently in 6th place. For them, it's just about holding on to that top 10 spot. Punching their ticket to Gamers 8. Get as much money into their pockets as possible. And honestly, they can have contention. Need to get a couple more eliminations, but they too can possibly bump up into first place. It's going to take one heck of an effort. They're down roughly about like 90, maybe 80 or so points. The possibilities are definitely endless.
Sons and Alex just sort of dancing around this reboot van. We'll pick that one up as well. Rocking that power logo on the back.
I like that. Quick elimination for them. They did pretty good to kind of qualify to this final. Trying to see exactly where they were actually able to qualify. I do believe it might have been in heat number 2, if I am correct. Yes, it was. In 12th place, qualifying in heat number 2. They got 44 eliminations through their best 5 games, including a victory royale along the way. They definitely know how to play against some of the Titans here in this lobby. It's just about executing and getting as many points underneath your belt in this last game as possible. Trying to see if they're within reach.
Reciprocal. Leaving the cubicles. Quick toilet break in the middle of the game, you know. Gotta let go of them nerves. It's a very nerve-wracking game for him. They are a team that is currently in that top 10. And if a slip-up was to happen now, it would be devastating for them. Last game was not their best by any means. 18th place, 0 elims. They need to do much better than that this time round.
I like the exotic twin mag that he has because it's a little form of rotation as well. You quickly just shoot one quick bullet, reload, and then you get a couple seconds so you can utilize the zero chance augment, I do believe it is, or the zero chance ability that you normally get from the fish, or the augment, I should say.
0 point, 0 point.
Yeah. So interesting to see if that's going to play a role at all, but for now it's just the static launch pads that you see around. Ooh, a llama in the tree.
That's a sign of good luck. Make a wish.
I wish somebody can find the llama. How about that?
Or boring wish. I wish Pilkey and Easiness can get to zone safely and continue to rise in the standings. Where are they currently seated? They are currently in 23rd and would need quite the game to push themselves into top 10.
Okay, we got, looks like a little bit of vault loot with the slurp. Got the augment. Go ahead and jellyfish. Kind of having a brain fart for a moment, just seeing them on top of the build, fishing in a pool.
Who doesn't want to fish in the pool?
I mean, you have a good point, but at the top of a building, fishing 10,000 feet in the air, actually, you know, that does sound pretty relaxing. I'm so fast, just getting tagged up. I like for them not trying to use that shield bubble to protect their car. They still have so much to go in the center of zone. They would have used that rather early. I do believe it would have been disastrous for them in later in the game.
Yeah. Using their shield bubble there would have been a blunder, for sure. They've only got a limited amount, and we know how pivotal it can be in fights deeper into the game. You have to save that for when you absolutely must use it and must need it.
Ofink and Guden. Actually a decent performance throughout their qualifiers up until this point, but entering in this game around 40th place, 39th, so to say. But for everybody in the lobby overall, not just them, there's 33 teams still left alive. There are about 40, 50 placement points or so still up for grabs for a lot of the teams in the lobby. It just goes to show how stacked, and some would say it's slow, but strategic is what I'm going to call it. This final sixth game is becoming.
Yeah, things are definitely slower paced, right? As you can expect. And when it's the last game of a massive, massive tournament, players are a bit more on the edge. Nobody wants to overstep. Nobody wants to overplay their hand. Everybody wants to do whatever it takes to stay alive as long as possible. For Quanti and Frets, this is huge, though. They have the pulse rifles. And if you've been asleep for the past couple months and you haven't been playing this season, then let me tell you, the pulse rifles are certainly an item you want to be carrying when possible. Quite literally a laser beam that can absolutely shred through not just your opponents, but through builds and the works.
I'm going to take note of how long that loadout at the top of the Rift Island is going to last. He took the pulse rifle, had a red eye and a heavy sniper. Jackson trying to close the distance, get up the mountain. Neb's is going to get taken down, but no, he turns, burns. Jackson ends up in a 1v1. Down goes Nebs. Jackson has to make the decision. Do I stop here? Do I be a hero? Do I get the revive off? Cease is in the distance. You see him in the mini-map trying to close that. But with the shield bubble going down, he's going to have to go and enter into the fight if he wants to go ahead and try to take this one out.
Yeah, and Cease not able to avenge his fallen duo Nebs, and that's tough because if he does go down here, which would be very likely due to the nature of the situation where he is in the zone, all the teams around him, it's so rough, right? This is a duo that are in different regions, so practicing together is something that isn't quite convenient. Will they stick with each other going into the next competition at Dallas? Will they split apart? There are going to be so many question marks, especially if they aren't able to get back into this game, which would be very unlikely.
I thought I saw Yamza kind of rotating underneath. They're going to stay on top of the Rift Island as long as possible. More than enough heals. Jackson goes down. saving Jatson. Kind of a switch up here that we saw moments ago. Either way, everybody here is going to be in the zone. A couple of them are just trying to immediately get on out. Vortex just goes towards the backside. Him and Axe Force need to stay alive. They're one of the few in contention of overtaking that first place team who we saw go down very, very early on in this game. Threats and Quanti causing so much distress to the players below. That's Fanajan and Mappy, who've kind of been floating around this area. Easiness is there as well, but Vortex is down. Vortex is down, one of the few competitors in the lobby that can take a claim for first place. Axe Force joins them. They get sent back to the lobby, and now they've been taken out of contention. They're currently in third and can only fall down the leaderboard.
That is a tough way to go out. But more so than just losing out on first place, Jacob, everything is just going to be focused around whether or not they've stayed in top 10. I'm sure they're still in there right now.
Yeah.
But will they still be when the final zone closes and all is said and done? Maz currently waiting in that building, maybe hoping for an opportunity to walk through his door.
Maz is just another one of those players that is on the bubble of top 10.
Yeah, he's currently in 10th as it stands in the lobby. So playing as a solo, Maz literally has to have the clutch of his career to save their tournament and to solidify a spot. If he can't, it will all be over.
Notch and Source, another team on the inside of the bubble. Currently in 9th, Aegis Kanata contention, trying to take back what was once theirs, which is that first place spot and the last chance to do it here in the 6th game. Spot a couple players in the bush, and that's where you see them blindly spraying in. Mappy's going to narrowly be able to escape, but the knock is still going to be able to go through. They catch him with, seemingly maybe on his Achilles heel or something. Oh, ref's guard's there. Oh, I was about to say, Kanata and Aegis going in. It was almost looking very, very dangerous for them. They just get their elimination, though, not getting too greedy. Immediately backtrack to the bush they were at moments ago. 4 different shield bubbles between the two, a couple of splashes as well. They immediately go back to that bush that I was talking about and terrorize the backside of zone. That's Tripper and that's Scram that need to watch out.
Kanata waiting in that bush is so dangerous. Queasy and Veno, they are still alive in this game. They are still here together, but it'd have to be, again, a crazy performance in this game. They'd have to start just W keying everybody, really.
Yeah.
Currently in 17th place, with a couple of the teams that are competing for top 10 ahead of them, still alive.
This team can do it too. Our FNCS Invitational Champions can make a run here for the Aegis. Much better position on the leaderboard than some of the teams that we've seen and talked about so far. It's about executing. You see them immediately trying to close the distance, but down goes Kanata. Asia realized the situation. His opponents that got the knock are closing in onto the distance. That's Hell's Fire, and Revsguard immediately take down Kanata, forcing Asia to think of a backup plan. He has no heals, but luckily for him, he at least at the very minimum has a shield bubble from one fight to the next. Revsguard and Hell's Fire trying to keep it going. They take down Scram. Trippin's trying to get out. He's going to live to fight another day, but for how long can he survive as a solo?
This is a huge fight for this team. They are fighting for their lives, fighting for their tournament in this game. Easy and Veno are looking to cause them issues as well. They're doing a very similar thing. Pink and Malabuka, though. Malabuka's down. Pink is going to have to solo clutch this, which is so rough. Last game, they went on the W key, they went on the hunt, and they amassed so many elimination points that have put them in a position just outside the top 10. They came into this game 12th place. A good game here would have secured it for them. But Malabuka going down, at least Pink, he's taken down Mu, which is really, really good. Seti and Kamido, they're still alive in this one.
Oh. Aegis hiding in the tree was able to take down Pink. Had the perfect line of sight last time we saw him. Hitting Kami getting forced in on this mountain. Thanks to Alex and Anon. Suns, excuse me, there's Trashy and Pump. They go down, but luckily for them, I think they may have solidified themselves a spot into the top 10, but only time will tell as they can only move down the leaderboard from here on out. Agers, 78 effective shield and HP, just traveling tree to tree right now, just trying to solidify any bit of points that he can to try to take over that first place spot.
Seti and Cammy need to continue to climb. They need to start finding elims. Currently have none in this game. And to make it this deep in the game with no elims is rather impressive. But that's not important right now. What's important is getting more points on the board for this duo. Coming to this game 17th place. Need to keep hitting big shots. Hellfire and Refsguard struggling.
Oh, they spot Agers as a solo on the other side. Queasy and Vino. Seti and Cammy being cheesy as can be with the heavy breach or the exotic to try to tear down the walls of anybody hiding in these builds. So I got a little bit of a cheeky smile going down. Something you don't necessarily see every single day when it comes to our traditional BR mode. Anybody hiding in the buildings needs to watch out because your covers are going to go bye-bye. And you see Cammy just waiting perfectly. And their synchronization right here is going to be very, very important as we enter into the top 4. Queasy, Vino letting all this action go down and trying to skate by and get themselves a top placing in the game with only 6 eliminations so far.
A big game here from Queasy and Vino could just do it. They're just on the outside. They're about in 14th place. If they can pick up a couple more of these elims and win the game, that would probably be enough to secure top 10. The comeback would be unreal from this duo who was a bit quiet throughout today's competition. Suns and Alex, they'll be looking to try to stop that from happening. And Seti and Cammy will be looking to try to push their way on in as well. All these different teams.
Wait a minute.
The stakes so high.
This might be doable for Queasy and Vino if they're able to grab a couple of these eliminations and the VR. Trying to look at the point threshold. Quick maths. I want to say very, very maybe for Seti and Cammy as well. If they're able to pick up the actual elims and win the game, at least for Queasy and Vino, this is definitely possible. 20 points on straight elims left on the field. About 10 plus points as well. 30-point gap to overcome, but a huge tag from Seti and Cammy on the high ground. 100 HP going bye-bye, but Seti goes down. Left Cammy by himself. 37 HP, trying to go to the backside of zone. Chug Cannon going out. That's going to be his only resource, but Alex and Sons have now claimed the high ground.
If you're Queasy and Vino, you can't afford for these elims to slip out of your reach. Sons and Alex, they're doing everything to take them out of their hands. And so now, they just have to try win this game out. Vino's down. Queasy in a 1v2, the 1v2 of his life, the 1v2 of his career. Goes up, goes down, but it won't be enough. Sons and Alex, the OCE boys will close things out here in game